Hey, May Q&A is live. Oh boy. I know y'all wondering where the episode of Dynamite, the review for Dynamite has gone. Where has it gone? Has it escaped? Has it has have I fallen off? The answer is no. I decided to just upload it on Friday instead of, forcing you to listen to like 3 hours of me chatterboxing on a Thursday. I decided to just kick it on over to Friday. So it'll be the Friday video, probably tomorrow morning. I'm going to release my review of AEW Dynamite. So I did not forget. I merely postponed it since it was already going to be late. I figured it might as well be a whole day late. As we usually do around this time, it is time for the May Q&A. So questions that was culled from the community section of our YouTube channel. We will definitely get into that, or also occasionally stop to answer questions in the live chat. This is a no holds barred kind of situation. You can pretty much ask whatever questions you want, and I am down for it. Right now, we're gonna let some people slide on in. Steven Smith and Top Dog, what's up? How y'all two doing? Hello to everybody else. Hopefully, you guys are going to have a safe and productive weekend. So it ought to be good this weekend. I am looking for what I plan to do this weekend. It looks like yes, just like I thought. Tomorrow is May 12th. That means that there is another Dawn of the Collectors comic and toy show in St. Clair Shores this Saturday, and I may go to that one too. That's the one where I went to and picked up all those Conan magazines, and I picked up those wrestling magazines that I got. I may go up there again just for shits and giggles, you know. And I really enjoyed my time there last time, so I think I may go there again. And so that's my Saturday. Even though I probably should take that time to actually finish a lot of the stuff that I was already reading, but this is going to be an interesting weekend. Even if I don't do anything but rest, I'm going to have a fun weekend, and my weekend actually going to start pretty early, I think. Yeah, buddy. So as per the usual, you're gonna let a couple of people in. Stephen A. Smith. Jesus, I wish I was talking to Stephen A. Smith. I'd talk about how I'm gonna glue his mouth shut with Gorilla Glue. My mama can't stand that dude, and I can't stand him either. My brother loves Stephen A. Smith. I don't know why. He's a talkingest, know nothingest son bitch in the world. But we will. I will spare you my dislike of Stephen A. Smith. We're just waiting for a few minutes. Yes, I will be doing both comment sections and the stream for Q&As. I'm going to switch it up probably in June. Probably not. As a matter of fact, no, I ain't. I like the system as it is now. I wanted to try to get people all over to the Discord, and I was gonna say, well, the Q&A is going to be questions from Discord, but nah, it's not enough people in there yet. I want people to migrate over there naturally first, and then we'll start integrating Discord questions and stuff into the Q&A once it starts getting a little bit more lengthy. That's where I need to put my hair in a bun or something. This this long twisted lock is killing me. It's tickling my back. All right, is it time? It's time. It's 8:05. So let's get started with the questions, starting from the community section of YouTube. Let's see what we got. Cha. AJ3 got 6 questions. 1. What's your top 10 favorite wrestling shoot interview clips that you liked? One, I can't give you a full top 10. I can just give you 10 clips that I really enjoyed. One was Kevin Nash talking about the locker room, but when he first got in, and how it looked like Sing Sing. That was one of my favorite ones. Another one of my favorite ones was uh Rob Van Dam making fun of Shawn Michaels' eye. Oh, it was bold as hell, but I'm telling you, I enjoyed the hell out of that. To hear that he regretted it now was pretty funny. Three, Raven doing shoot interviews where he was breaking down wrestling and specifically the storytelling element of the babyface and the heel. I really love those. Four, Al Snow. Al Snow talking about who's the best worker, and he's talking about Hulk Hogan who had the best match, and Hogan and Andre had the best match because that's the match that drew money. Um, what else? Five. Uh, let's see. What would be five? Um, I can't think of any more. To be quite honest, I haven't watched a shoot interview in a long time, so I gave you four. I'm sorry, that's the best I could do right now. Two, what are your favorite moments of WrestleMania 11 that nobody ever talk about? How decent Lawrence Taylor was as a wrestler, for instance. He approached it like it was a fight, so that was good to me. Now Lawrence Taylor as an individual was a piece of shit, so that's why he's not in the Hall of Fame. But I think that was pretty fun. The botched jackknife at the main and the main. I wish it's not the main event. It was the co-main event of WrestleMania 11. Brett or Diesel and Shawn with the jackknife where Shawn's foot hit the mat first, and it just looked like shit. It looked terrible. Um, what else? What else was great? The entrance for the Allied Powers, Bulldog and Lex Luger. I love their entrance. I hate the match that they were in though. They were against Jacob and EI Blue. It sucks. That sucked hard way. Um, what else was WrestleMania 11 that I think people kind of forget? Uh, TL Salt and Pepper. Salt and Pepper was there. That was fun. They didn't do much of anything, but they did get scared by Bam Bam Bigelow, so that was pretty fun. Um, so WrestleMania 11 had some shit in it. It wasn't great, but it had some stuff in it. His third question: if you were running ECW in 2006, what would you change and what would you not change? Well, for starters, I wouldn't even try to relaunch ECW in 2006. Because I already know that you can't bring things back, but they were trying to capitalize off of the ECW craze. They had done a couple of one night stands, and those things that actually made some money, and they were just trying to, continue that gravy train. Ended up killing the ECW brand in doing so. But people claim that Vince never plays the hot hand. This was one time when he did play the hot hand, and it didn't work out. But I think if you're going to have an ECW reunion, it has to be genuine ECW. I think what it showed is that even a sort of lighthearted ECW wasn't going to work because of the outside forces that was dealing with it in terms of the Sci-Fi Network wanting sci-fi elements. Even though they did a lot of the hardcore crap that they like to do already. Like they had Ric Flair rolling around in thumbtacks, bro, on an episode of ECW TV. Like as much as people gave that show shit, they had Big Show and Ric Flair rolling around in thumbtacks, bro. That shit was nutty. Like 2006 was a wild time. But what would I have changed? I probably would have just let it be what it was, which is um, a third string show. They tried to populate it with Benoit and Angle, and just guys, they kept putting guys on the show, and the guys would just fucking leave. Like if you had any tenure and you got put on ECW, they usually just left. Like Benoit would rather kill his family than be on ECW, and Kurt Angle would rather be in TNA. So it was dead from jump. But I think they did the best they could by putting Benoit and Angle in there. They did the best they could, man. But it wasn't going to work out. Well, I shouldn't say they did the best they could. They did the best they could in terms of star power. 4. Have you ever seen the Inhumanoids cartoon or collect any of the toys back then? I did not. I am unfamiliar with the Inhumanoids. I know who the Inhumans are. That's a Marvel Comics thing. I don't know who the Inhumanoids are. 5. What wrestling episode pay-per-view you saw was the catalyst of your dislike for multi-man matches? It's hard to say which one match it was. It just felt like we went from triple threat matches and fatal four ways being matches that were rare to matches that happened literally at least once a week, and it just got on my nerves. But WrestleMania 2000 was a pretty good a pretty good linchpin, because I pretty much walked away from wrestling after that. After WrestleMania 2000 and that shitty main event, I was like, you know what, bro, I don't ever need to see a fatal four way match ever again. I actually was kind of cringe at WrestleMania 20 when I heard about it, and I was like, oh god, the main event was a triple threat match. Ugh. And even though I liked, obviously I liked everybody involved, Triple H to a much lesser degree than Benoit and Shawn. I just wasn't in a rush to see another triple threat main event. It's like I walked away from a triple threat main event, and then I was going to come back to one. Nah, pass. It wasn't until I actually legitimately believed in the main events that I actually got back in it. But I think WrestleMania 2000 was one of the times where I was like, yeah, I've had enough. Just like the multiple person Money in the Bank ladder matches, those are starting to get on my nerves too. It's cool if you do it once a year. It's cool when it's two of them a year. There's three a year, and then NXT is doing one. It's like, come on, bro. It's too much. It's too much. Entirely too much. 6. Name 50 of your most disliked, hated rappers of all time and why. Well, I can tell you like 10 of them were in No Limit. Silk the Shocker can't rap, and he was never on beat. The nigga was trash. C Murder was okay. He just sounded like he was drowning all the time. Master P was okay, except for I just think that he was whack and typical of like Birdman and stuff like that. I just didn't think he was any good. A lot of them are from Memphis, like 8Ball and MJG. I just never got into them. I don't like Memphis rap, really. I'm not a big fan of Memphis. Yo Gotti, I like one or two Yo Gotti songs, but I'm not really a Yo Gotti guy. Not really into Triple Six Mafia, even though I do like "Play It While You Hating," the song he did with Cash Money. I love that joint. That was my favorite for a long time. My favorite 3 6 Mafia song, the Hypnotized Minds plus Cash Money record. Play it while you hating, play it while you hating, play it while you hating. Everything else they made, I hated it. Project Pat, oh my goodness, bro. I thought he couldn't get more retarded than Project Pat. If we being honest, like legit, I thought he was the most remedial rapper we was probably ever going to hear. I was wrong because it was like 1999, but I thought he was the most remedial dude I was ever going to hear on the radio. I was like, I cannot believe people are listening to this. It was similar when I first heard Houston rappers like Mike Jones and Paul Wall. I was like, people listen to this shit? And then, so Paul Wall wouldn't be on my list, but Mike Jones would be. He sucks. I'm not a big fan of Corrupt from the West Coast. Not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of Dads and Corrupt or Dog Pound in general. Just not a big the Dog Pound guy. Who else? I know I'm bouncing all over the place, but I'm trying to think of uh rappers in like bunches, like from like certain areas and stuff. Um, let's see. I can't come up with 50. I don't know. That's a lot. I liked Game first couple of songs. His first album. And I still think Game is a decent rapper. He ain't one of the worst I've ever heard. I can tell you that much. I've heard him far worse than that. A lot of these new kids aren't any good, but I don't listen to him enough to be able to say that he's one of the worst I've ever heard. That would be something where I actually listened or heard somebody play the stuff that they do. If I hear a song here and there, that's not really enough. If I was like back in the days when I used to listen to the radio and I couldn't escape some guys. Correct was born in, I think he was born in Philadelphia, but he's from California. Or at least he represents, let's say, West Coast rap. Who else? I know there's got to be some more. Oh, Timbaland and Magoo, they both whack. Timbaland is a decent producer, but only for R&B. And I wasn't a big fan of the R&B rap mixture. Wasn't a big fan of that stuff. I realized that ruined both genres. If we're being honest, that was a bad time. Even somewhat lyrical rappers are garbage, like Chino XL and Cannabis. Just no charisma. Rap, 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 rap. Boring beat choices. That's like, ugh. So yeah, guys like that. Uh, who else? Who else is one of the worst rappers I've ever heard? Um, Tony Yayo. He's no charisma, boring, a lap dog, a lackey, a coffee getter, a gun holder, wallet carrier, purse holder. Just one of the worst kinds of people, if we're being honest. That that guy. I don't like that guy. Um, who else? I'm trying to think of off the top of my head because I was put on the spot. There's got to be some more I can think of. Uh, I guess you could say the Yin Yang Twins, but that would be easy. Saying like the Yin Yang Twins and D4L and a lot of the ringtone rappers, the snap rap. I hated all of that crap. Soldier Boy, Tell them, that would be easy. I could just go and name a lot of those dudes. But so I'm not going to give you 50, but I gave you a good, what, 20, 20, 25? Silk the Shocker is one of the worst rappers I've ever heard in my life. Like, easily. Like, Silk the Shocker is literally one of the worst rappers I've ever heard in my life. Like, I'm talking like in terms of not staying on beat. I'm talking about in terms of never having anything to say. I'm talking about in terms of can't understand what he's saying. And I was like, and people was buying it. People was buying it. Yeah, Jermaine Dupri sucked too. Absolutely. Uh, it's hot in this. It's hot in this joint. It's 80 degrees outside, brother. Oh yeah, Benzino. Benzino was really bad. I never listened to an album, but I heard that song Booty. It used to come on BET Uncut. I see booty. I see booty. Boom, 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 bubble, boom, 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 bubble, boom, boom. I was like, I like the beat. I think they did the remix or whatever with Fabulous on it. That was pretty dope. Everything else though, I'm not listening to Benzino. Why would I do that to myself? He sucks. All right. Nah, not Twista. Twista is good. Pastor Troy, he does suck though. What is your guilty, Mr. VXG? What is your favorite guilty pleasure TV show? Everyone has at least one. For me, it was The Bad Girls Club. Okay. One of my favorite. I used to like. I used to like Celebrity Couples Therapy. Um, it was an interesting time. That's back when I was first, caking with my girlfriend, and we used to watch TV shows together. She had me watching Couples Therapy, and I think that's when Too Short dropped Gimmick, and he was on there as being just regular Todd. And I was like, ugh, ah. Too Short's supposed to be a pimp. Then he on here spilling his guts. I remember Ghostface was on there too. That shit was funny. DMX was on there, I think, for a little bit. That shit was hilarious. Um, but back then I was watching that kind of stuff. I can't watch that stuff now. I really can't. As far as like TV shows, like regular TV shows, probably Scrubs. Because only me and like two other people ever watched Scrubs. Most other people just pretended it doesn't exist. They don't know Scrubs is real. Scrubs is funny as shit though. It's funny as fuck. It's a good show. Like legit, it's good. Uh, just address me as king. Favorite unpopular wrestler. Someone you hate. Or someone everyone hates that you love. Like you run down Sanjay Dutt, Juice Robinson. Um, someone that I like. Well, there's a lot of people that I like that people generally hate. Sid being one of them. Karrion Kross being another one. Um, I didn't dislike Goldberg either. Who else that people liked? People are waking up to Power and Glory as a tag team. People are woke on them now. Um, who else? Let me think of somebody else that everybody hated that I like. Um, I guess you can say the Ultimate Warrior because people who are work rate marks, they don't like the Ultimate Warrior for some reason. Um, Let me think of some more. I can't think of any more. Uh, those guys jump out at me as wrestlers that I'm legitimately into that other people were kind of like, oh, he sucks, he's trash. I'm like, bruh, there ain't no way you think Sid garbage. Just ain't no way. I ain't believing that one. I think you got a crazy political opinion if you don't like Sid at that point, bro. It's like I don't see how you can be a wrestling fan and think somebody like Sid is trash. Like, bro, no, that is like the pinnacle of pro wrestling right there, dog. Jack dude in a fight. It looks like he's in a fight. You know, it was just so many. It's crazy. Prince Ali. By decade's end, do you think WWE would either bought the rights or have partnership with the Bullet Club, similar to how the WWF bought WCW along with the NWO? No, because the Bullet Club is, for starters, is owned by New Japan, so there's nothing you can really do about it. The trademarks, and I'm pretty sure all the trademarks and everything is either owned by New Japan or people are making offshoot New Japan merchandise. But I'm pretty sure it's a New Japan thing. That's why they can't use the name or doesn't use the name or whatever. Um, I wouldn't want them to do partnership with them. Bullet Club is washed. That'd be like doing a partnership with the NWO in 2003. It's like you're way late. The heyday of the Bullet Club was a long time ago. The MS Studios. 2 questions. 1, would you like to see Rey Mysterio get one last world title run before he retires? That would be excellent. That would be great. I would really, and for him to actually get something that he can enjoy, like he's on top of the world right now instead of selling merchandise and all this kind of stuff. I just don't see how it would fit in. Like, what would be the angle? And it would be a great feel good moment, but it wouldn't last long. Ray is the kind of guy that he can get there, but you don't want him to keep it. You know, you want him to climb the mountain and capture the flag, only to be fucked over in the end. Similar to how they did Daniel Bryan. I think they did that with Ray twice already. You know, he won the world title, then he lost it to a Money in the Bank winner. He won the world title, then he lost it to John Cena like an hour and a half later. That's the kind of stuff you got to do with Ray to keep the sympathy there, because he'll stop being an underdog if he starts beating everybody. Then you killed his character. Now he's the world champion. He's supposed to beat everybody, right? But if you fuck him by Money in the Bank or some kind of underhanded chicanery, then you get to maintain that he's good enough to get there, but he's not going to be champion for 400 days. Dude's 5'6". It just probably 5'4". It just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, absolutely. If there was a situation I could create where Ray could get the title one more time and then immediately lose it like the next night to a Money in the Bank winner or something like that, yeah, that would be great. 2, do you think War Games would be interesting if it was elimination style? I agree with you in that the War Games is an overhyped match concept and lacks drama. I think it would have more drama if it was elimination style. Then the time limit in between the two guys coming in would matter a lot more. Because then you will have the time. I think it's 2 minutes. I think it is. It's probably less than that now. But it was like 2 minutes. The 2-on-1 situation occurred or whatever. That would have a lot more drama if it was elimination. Because then you could theoretically eliminate somebody, and then a fresh man would come in into a 2-on-1 situation, and it creates a different dynamic too. Because you could have like a weaker guy get eliminated, and then have like a Goldberg kind of guy come in and tackle these guys 2-on-1 and handle them or whatever. He'll probably get over like a Roman candle. But yeah, so that's a good idea. See, something a minimal tweak like that could really change things. All right, let's go to the comment section real quick. Israel Massey never liked Joel Santana. What's wrong with you? I like Joel Santana. I do. I always thought he's got charisma. I don't know about the Santana bandana stuff, but he got charisma. Top dog. Who do you think is the hottest women in wrestling right now? The hottest women, as in more than one? Well, I think it's easy to say Nikita Lyons. She's easily one of the hottest women in wrestling. Ariana Grace, super hot. The daughter of Santino. She's hot. There's another chick I just saw that's coming out of NXT. I forget what her name is, but she's pretty hot too. There's a lot of them going to be NXT girls. A lot of them going to be NXT girls, man. Them NXT girls are something else, man. Jesus, they hot. AJ3 wants to know how was Dynamite. You're going to get the answer to that in the Dynamite review. Steven Smith, I got a question. What do you think about AEW supposedly getting $1 billion for their new show and get $52 million if they get CM Punk to stay? Well, I addressed all of this in the AEW review, so I'm not going to go into it here. I'm just going to say the source of those informations comes from a Wrestling Observer newsletter board member. So not anything from a reliable source in the media. And it's been debunked, I believe, and a lot of people are backing away from it because it's a silly thing to say. Nobody knows how much money this shit's going to be worth or whatever it's going to be. So we're gonna do some interesting stuff. Stephen Smith says he's got Friday and Saturday off, getting ready to join the chat. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for stopping around. Valerie Lareda absolutely has. She's Yep, she's the one. Valerie Lareda, aka Lola Vice. Damn, that girl hot. She is. She hot. Tiffany Stratton she is amazing. Hot babe. Lola Vice. Elektra Lopez is beautiful. Yeah, Elektra Lopez is hot. Tiffany Stratton she's a good looking girl, but I don't know if I would go hot. Remember that Finland girl, Jade Gentile. She's hot. She was the girl who was holding the shoe for Grayson Waller. She was his shoe holder. She had the shoe with the pillow and everything. Yeah, that was a good role for her. I hope she comes to NXT with them. That was Jade Gentile. Scarlett is hot too. Yeah, she was probably hotter a couple of years ago, but she's hot. She's still hot. All the diplomats have charisma. That's why I love Dipset. Dipset, you're not listening to Dipset for lyrics, okay? You know, because you're listening to Dipset because they silly. And that's really all it boils down to is them dudes are silly. And I love it. Very entertaining. They brought the entertainment to rap. You know, like it was already there because, you know, guys like Nori and everything was doing similar things that Cameron and all those guys were doing. Nori had done that shit a couple of years before. But with a major push, like Rockefeller, Def Jam, and all that, it had been a while before somebody with some real flavor was on Def Jam and was, you know, acting like Cameron was acting. You know, Cameron's a fool. I love me some Purple Tape. Not Purple Tape, Purple Haze. Purple Haze. I listen to any track on there right now. You know, Come Home With Me. Okay, not so much though. But Purple Haze. Oh, Piff personified. That and the Dipset double album. I know Cameron had albums before Come Home With Me, but he was trying to be lyrical schmirical on those joints. He was still kind of being silly, but he was being like, he made shit like D-Rugs, you know, and I hate that nigga D-Rugs. You know, drugs, D-Rugs, abusing his mama, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, I get it. But then go make Horse and Carriage. You know, Horse and Carriage was silly. Him and Mace fell out forever over Horse and Carriage. I'm glad they made up and they're friends again. Stephen Smith says he hates the fact that they took Elektra Lopez out of the Legado del Fantasma just to put in Selena Vega. Now I think that was very stupid because she brings nothing to the group. She brings a little bit more than Elektra Lopez. Elektra Lopez isn't really good at promos. But I think that they could have had both of them. Like, Zelina Vega could have used a heavy. You know, she could have used like a bodyguard or, you know, a bigger woman with her. And I think Elektra Lopez would have been perfect for that. I keep pitching for Zelina Vega and Raquel Rodriguez because I think that's a perfect match. But I think Elektra Lopez would have been great. Like her and Zelina as a tag team would have been fun. With Zelina being fast and being the brains, Elektra being big but green, she could, you know, go in there and do like some strength spots and everything. And she's beautiful. Yeah, I think you could have had both. Why not have both? Um, AJ3 says, would you be interested in a rematch between the Locks and Dipset? Who would you pick? I don't see the Locks don't see the Locks losing. Like, what is Dipset going to play that they didn't play before? You know, I don't know. What would they play they didn't play before? Like, they lost already last time. And I think that most people was not expecting them to lose because people remember more Dipset records because of how much Dipset came out at one time. The difference is the Locks was around for such a long time that they got so many joints, and they still got plenty joints that they didn't, they probably didn't play. But yeah, I don't see the benefit of running it back because it's like, what's going to be different? You know, I don't see what the difference is going to be. Uh, Darren Miles, did you see the Cameron movie? Cameron was in more than one movie. What movie are we talking about here? Top Dog, thoughts on Cena supposedly doing a rap battle with Jay-Z and Fabulous at WrestleMania 19. I think Vince McMahon spending a lot of money and has no idea who Jay-Z and Fabulous are would have been fucking hilarious. I think Fabulous would have done it. I don't know about Jay-Z. And at WrestleMania 19, he probably would not have done it. But Fabulous, yeah, he probably would have. And I think it would have been fun. I wonder what happened with that. Leith Elzy, are you keeping up with Praz from the Fugees being an FBI informant? Actually, after I found out he was like a Chinese agent or something like that, I kind of fell out with this story. I was like, I can't believe this. I'm gonna probably look back into it a little bit later. But I've got to tell you, it was a surprise to me. All right, back to the community section. Top Dog, favorite Macho Man match of all time. Who do you think are the most? And he's two questions. Favorite Macho Man match of all time. Um, hmm. It would be easy to say Macho Man versus Ricky Steamboat WrestleMania 3, but I'm not going to say that. Because one of my favorite matches is actually Macho Man versus Shawn Michaels, that match they had in England. Also, Macho Man Ultimate Warrior, WrestleMania, what was that, 7? Yeah, WrestleMania 7. That was tremendous too. Um, Another one of my favorite Macho Man matches, of course, the Mega Powers Explode, WrestleMania 4. But all time, it's hard to say all time, dog, because he got bangers with DDP. He got, the bangers with Hogan and Warrior. It's hard to say which one is like my favorite all time. Um, he even had some bangers in the 80s with like Tito Santana. Like, Savage got joints, man. He's just one of the goats. Like, legit, like one of the goats. So I'm gonna play it safe and say Shawn, Savage, and England. I'm gonna probably say that is probably my favorite Macho Man match of all time. His second question: who do you think are the most important people in Raw history? In WWE Raw history, Vince McMahon for coming up with the idea, of course. Uh, Whoever Bonnie Hammer is definitely, because she was, I think, the president of USA Network for a lot of years, and she kept WWE on the air, even through a lot of their situation where they was getting in trouble with USA Network. She kind of believed in the company and everything. So she's got to be very important. The early days of Raw didn't have a central star, but of course you got to say Stone Cold Steve Austin. Once he really took off, he became like the star of Monday Night Raw. But I think you have to put him as 1A and The Rock as 1B. So I think after Vince and the corporate types, Bonnie Hammer, and maybe even Vince Russo, I think those would probably be the top 4 or 5 when it comes to Monday Night Raw. So I think that would be it. 2 talents, 2 executives. I think that's good in terms of important people in Raw history. Top Dog, do you think the Doctor of Thugonomics Cena gimmick could work in today's environment? No. Too many people complaining about cultural appropriation and all this kind of crap. That shit wouldn't work today, man. People would throw a goddamn fit. People would throw a fit if if a white dude just bust out started battle rapping today, Plus, I think it would have been overdone. I think part of the reason why it was successful because of the time frame. With the PG era of today, it probably wouldn't work. Besides the race thing. DeAndre Dukes has 7 questions. 1. Which WrestleMania match outcomes from 1 to 39 would you change? The outcome you said. Oh, that's interesting. I think in retrospect, Bam Bam Bigelow should have beat Lawrence Taylor. In retrospect. Let's see what else. I think Booker T should have beat Triple H. Even though Triple H is supposed to go on to Russell Goldberg and win and lose the title to him, I still think that they could have given Booker T a short run and then maybe took it back from him a couple of weeks later, or maybe even have Goldberg take it from him. But I think they wanted Triple H because they wanted Goldberg to end the reign of terror and all this kind of stuff. But then they booked it like shit. So I probably would change that. I probably would change the finish to WrestleMania. I was saying 20, but WrestleMania 16 or WrestleMania 2000. I would have had The Rock win the title. I think it was the right time. It shouldn't have been the Fatal 4-Way at all. That's silly. Why even have a Fatal 4-Way? It should have just been Triple H and The Rock with The Rock going over. That's what it should have been. WrestleMania 17, I would have had Steve Austin just win straight up without. Even though I probably would have had him beat him with the chairs and everything, but I still would have. I would have had him turn on Vince and get the big popping, and walk out from there. Let's see. There wasn't really that many botched finishes in the early days of WrestleMania, if we're being honest. It seemed like the right person always won. And then WrestleMania, what happened? It might have been WrestleMania. Yeah, WrestleMania 2000 happened. It was like the first WrestleMania. Oh, yeah, Hogan and Yokozuna. They didn't want the people to go home disappointed, and they claimed they wanted Hogan for the European tour. It was all Bruce Pritchard bullshit. But the idea of Yokozuna defeating Bret Hart and then losing the title to Hogan, that's trash. Might as well just let Yoko walk out with the belt and call it a day. Maybe have Hogan win the title on Raw or something, and then we go, similar to before. But they wanted to give Yoko an out and have him wrestle before, and then wrestle a fresh Hulk Hogan would give him an excuse to lose. But it's trash. We can sit here all day with this. Because then we started getting into the long WrestleManias, and they're starting getting Big Show beating Cody Rhodes. Oh, my God. That pissed me off even then, right? Because Cody was on a roll, dog. He was on a roll. He was really, really, really getting momentum. And then they had to get into this storyline about Cody making fun of Big Show. Big Show never had a WrestleMania moment. Big Show ain't got no WrestleMania moments. Big Show is a big fat turd. And then he had to get his WrestleMania moment by winning the Intercontinental title from Cody Rhodes. Fuck you. Come on, Vince. I'd have changed the fuck out of that. I'd have had Big Show slip and fall on a banana peel, fall on his neck, and Cody pins him. Yeah, I shit his pants or something like that. Get the hell out of here. This shit was trash. DeAndre Dukes. Which wrestler do you hate with the passion? You must not listen to this channel. Do you not listen to this channel? Because let's put it like this. Outside of the people that I usually talk about, in terms of people that I don't like Scott Norton. I just think he's boring. All right. To me, that's a cardinal sin. It's one thing to be trash. It's another thing to just be boring. And I'm talking like boring over long stretches of time. Like sometimes people start out fine and then they get boring. But some people are just plain boring. Like boring all the time. And not boring in a good way. Like Dean Malenko is kind of boring if you're looking for personality. But he can go in there and have a very good match. And, he's a wrestler guy, so he doesn't need to be, over the top and everything. And there needs to be a place for people like that, But outside of people that I usually talk about, not that many. I usually talk about the same people I dislike all the time. 3, if the world was divided by men and women, how would each side survive? Well, the men would survive by cutting each other's throats. They will let somebody else build something, then they probably kill them and take it. The women, what Rollo Tomasi says is that they hang out at the finish line and marry the winner. So essentially, that's what will happen. All the women will wait for some guy to wife her up and who can protect her, who's got something. And then if a barbarian comes to the gate with a club or an axe or something like that, she'll probably fuck him and let him murder her husband, because that's how the world works. 4. Who do you think winning? Who do you see winning Money in the Bank for both men and women? It's hard to pick one for the men, because it's hard to pick one for the women too, because there's not a lot of qualified candidates. Triple H has done a really bad job of making you believe that anybody should be world champion right now. I'm thinking that the winner of the women's Money in the Bank is likely going to end up just losing. That's just my thought process. It's probably going to be unless that person, I would use the Money in the Bank to turn somebody heel. That's what I would do personally, because right now Bianca is wiping the floor with everybody who's a heel at the moment. So I probably would have a babyface win Money in the Bank and then use it to turn heel on Bianca and win the title. And then that's the person she'll feud with for the fall. I don't know who that would be, because I can't think of that in my mind right now. I would probably say like Raquel Rodriguez. I think that would be fine. Even though, but Raquel is so big and muscular, she doesn't really need the Money in the Bank. Ronda Rousey doesn't need it. I just can't. I don't know. Maybe Mandy Rose. I think Mandy Rose would be a great Money in the Bank winner if they decide to bring her back. She would be great in that role. She's a believable person who could win the title, and you could reform Toxic Attraction, or you could form another group that's similar to Toxic Attraction around her as the champion. That would work. So I'm gonna go off board and say Mandy Rose for the girls. For the guys, I'm not gonna say Cody, even though a lot of people will probably say Cody. I'm probably gonna go with either Finn Balor or Dominic Mysterio. That's what I'm gonna go with. I don't know why. I don't got no real reason why either one of them would win. 5. What's your favorite crime mafia movie? Oh, Goodfellas. Goodfellas, I think, is the best. Casino is second. Godfather 3 is third. A Bronx Tale is fourth. Did I say Godfather 3? I mean Godfather 2. Once Upon a Time in America. The movie's just too long, but it's one of my favorites. Who else do we got for a mafia movie? I haven't watched a mob movie in a long time, but those jumped out at me. Goodfellas just jumps out at me. I love Goodfellas. It's so memeable. It's so many memes. Casino is probably one of De Niro's best runs ever. Heat is another one. It's kind of not a mob movie though. It's more of a crime drama, but I love Heat. Heat is really dope. So let's move on. 6. If you owned a business of any kind, what would it be? I keep thinking about food truck or a restaurant or something like that. But those things, they get killed so quick that I probably wouldn't do that. So it would likely be like a printing company or something like that, publishing house. I was thinking about that, maybe open up an LLC and then publish my own stuff through it. That would be interesting. I probably could do that. 7. DeAndre Dukes. How well do you see this new AEW Collision show going? Interestingly enough, I talked about this in the AEW Dynamite review as well. But I will say this. If the idea is for the show to air on Saturdays like we think, it's going to get decimated, because sports is on Saturdays. Football, basketball, boxing, UFC. What would they be expecting on a Saturday night? That's my question. Pay-per-views sometimes are on Saturdays. I don't know what would they expect if it was going to be on a Saturday. So I'm thinking it's probably going to move to a weekday. and it's going to be moved to a weekday that's kind of weak. So I'm thinking Thursday, personally. I'm thinking Wednesday Dynamite, Thursday Collision, as a way of avoiding big sports games. You still got Thursday night football, but uh, occasional basketball game on a Thursday, but it's not like a Saturday night. Saturday night's got hella sports. And then, of course, people go to the movies. They go on dates. They touch grass. They touch ass. They do all kinds of stuff on Saturday nights. So I don't know if Saturday night is a safe night, and Fridays you can forget it. Don't even run on Fridays. Christopher Lloyd. If anything, he's a new Adam Cole. He's finally going to be going to the gym. That's a blessing. What am I talking about here? What are we talking about? Have you ever seen the original Scarface of the 1930s? I did not. I'm gonna look into it though. Vegeta Lover 92 got Damian Priest winning Money in the Bank. That's an interesting choice. Top Dog, how would you reform the NWO in the perfect world? I would start by resurrecting Scott Hall because it doesn't work without him. WG Fields thinks it'll be LA Knight for Money in the Bank. I don't think so. And I don't want LA Knight to win Money in the Bank. To me, we should be focused on who's going to be carrying the company in the future. LA Knight is 40. He's older than Roman. So he's older than Roman. He's older than Drew. He's older than Seth. You have to get the Batista push. I think it would be fine if he won Money in the Bank. It would be a great achievement, but I wouldn't put the belt on him or anything like that. I wouldn't go that far, man. I don't know. It depends on how well you get over, though. Christopher Lloyd, Cody and Roman was already fighting before WrestleMania 39, even had matches during. I don't know about that. I don't remember. Did they have it must have been like house show matches or something. Christopher Lloyd, but which Mick Foley, because then Hemmingman Edge had a great Extreme Rules, which brought back ECW for 4. I don't know what you're talking about. Too many McMahons in that WrestleMania 2000. Yeah, I agree with that. What about the streak ending? I think the streak ending was needed on that show. I think it was so poetic that it fits the overall narrative of the show. I just wish Undertaker had retired afterwards. That was the only thing I would say, is that he probably should have retired after the streak broke. I was okay with Brock breaking it. Brock was the right guy. It's just Undertaker held on too long because he got concussed or whatever. Lights. What modern wrestlers would you put in a previous era? That's a good question. A lot of these guys would probably fit perfectly in the WCW Cruiserweight division, especially like El Hijo del Vikingo, Phoenix, Bandito. They could probably rock in the mid card of WCW. I wish some of these guys were in WWE. People talk about, that's the weird thing. Like, so many people be like, how every new wrestler sucks, and it's not like the Attitude Era. You start asking these dudes like, okay, what's your favorite median match? How many hardcore Holly matches did you have to sit through? Get the fuck out of here. There's no way people's, my favorite time is the Attitude Era. It was so much fun. Like, you just like Austin and Rock. Okay, that's it. If you had to sit through that entire show of Al Snow matches, you would probably shit yourself. There's no way you're going to sit there and tell me you were sitting here watching Mosh and Thrasher and you think it's the pinnacle of wrestling. Get the fuck out of here. I just don't take that stuff seriously, man. Like, if you're going to make the argument about the Attitude Era being the best, just say it had the best main events. It had the best main event guys, the best top wrestlers. Because the rest of the card was trash, and everybody knew that, But they did have some solid mid-carders, too, like Val Venus and Billy Gunn and Road Dogg and Ken Shamrock. But all that hardcore title stuff, nah, bro. WrestleMania 22 should have been Cena versus Edge. Yeah, it should have been. The Triple H wanted what he wanted, which is very unfortunate. AJ3, Cam was in the sequel to State Property to add Rockefeller film movie Paid in Full and Killer Season. I think that they were talking about Killer Season is when he asked about the Cameron movie. And I did see Killer Season and it was hilariously garbage. Paid in Full is a great movie. It's a great movie. The State Property 2 becoming a comedy out of nowhere, because State Property 1 was like a serious movie. And then State Property 2 got Nori in it, and sort of Nori is involved with something is silly. So Nori is in it, Cameron's in it, and it's like a comedy. Stop having fucking parties. But the first State Property was like a serious movie. What up, TN Pyro? Macho Man reuniting with Elizabeth, the top 5 Mania moment of all time. Absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody loves Dipset. Vegeta Lover, 92. Bandito is awesome. Just too bad he couldn't convince his wife to move to Florida. Very unfortunate for him, right? But I guess he's living his dream. I guess working fucking dark and stuff. Christopher Lloyd, yeah, Brian give us that Steiner math he did against Trick Williams on NXT. Match Trick, Mr. Williams, yeah. Oh my god, I can't read that. It's nonsense. How would you book Brian Breaker on the main roster? That's a good question because I would probably. I know that they're trying to avoid using the name and his dad and stuff too much. Especially nowadays, they're probably not going to use his dad too much because his dad's a pariah. But you don't really need to gimmick him up too much. I just hope they don't do something silly like put him in a black jacket and with the spikes and everything, because that's what his dad did in WCW, and we don't need that. Okay, let's let the kid do something different. Something creative. But I don't know. I don't have an answer outside of he should win more than he should lose, and that he should win in dominant fashion and beat the shit out of people and look intense. But that's called the Goldberg push, and I don't want anybody Goldberg pushed. What's your favorite movie and who's your favorite actor and actress? Favorite actor? Leonardo DiCaprio. Robert De Niro for a long time. Al Pacino, of course, for a long time. But Leonardo DiCaprio in terms of modern actors that I really enjoy. Favorite movie is actually House of Flying Daggers. My favorite movie is always going to be foreign because I grew up on Kung Fu flicks. But Hero was my favorite movie for a long time. The Jet Li movie Hero, about the creation of China. I loved that movie. I really did. But then I watched House of Flying Daggers, and I watched it, and I was like, it was so touching. Such a moving movie. Got good action. It's a meaningful story. Nice little twist. Everything is like really good. Now, in terms of American movies, it probably would be Casino, Goodfellas. What else? Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump is one of my favorite movies. I love Forrest Gump. Like, my brother is the one who got me watching. He has an obsession with watching the same thing over and over and over again. Like, I guess it's part of his mental thing. But he used to watch like Virtuosity a lot. He used to watch Forrest Gump a lot. The only time I didn't really complain is when he watched Forrest Gump a lot. I love Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump, one of my favorite movies for sure. Malcolm X is one of my favorite movies. Mo Better Blues is one of my favorite movies. Clockers is one of my favorite movies. I like the 90s Spike Lee stuff. I was really a big fan of that stuff, even though it was kind of woke. It's woke for its time, but I thought it was very important for him to make those movies too. So let's go back to the comment section. I didn't have a favorite actress. Who was my favorite actress? Probably whoever I think is the most beautiful woman at the time. I guess Angela Bassett. Let's put it like that. Angela Bassett, Pam Grier, Foxy Brown, Coffee. She's fine in both of them movies. God damn, she's fine. She's making me sweat. Mr. VXG, once The Rock's daughter starts wrestling, do you think the fans will give her a fair chance? Or will they reject her in a jealous rage like they do Dominic? I think once they figure out she's The Rock's daughter, the pressure is going to really mount, and she's not going to be able to keep up, and that's going to be very difficult for her. I mean, what can you expect her to do when her daddy's The Rock? Except mimic him. And I don't think she wants to do that. Ninja, 2 questions. Who is your favorite debut in WWE? Oh, this is a good question. My favorite debut. I think most people would say Chris Jericho as their favorite debut. I don't think mine would be Chris Jericho though, because I've seen the Jericho one 100 times. So I'm not sure if I would go with Chris Jericho, even though I think it's easily one of the best. Um, it's hard to say what my favorite debut is because there's been so many that's been very good. Undertaker at Survivor Series 1990 when he debuted, that was tremendous. You know, the reaction from the kids and everything was special. You know, it was special. Um, when you see, I was about to say Kamala and Mid South, or was it World Class when he took his when he come out there and it was like, oh, um, but that was not WWE. There's gotta be another one, but I'm gonna go with Undertaker. Undertaker and Chris Jericho tied for one. I like both of them quite a bit. What is your favorite WWE pay per view? Good question. This is a good one. See, because it's not necessarily WrestleMania. It's Royal Rumble 1992. Royal Rumble 1992 is probably one of the pinnacles of professional wrestling. Roddy Piper wins the Intercontinental Championship from the Mountie. They're about to faint. They're like a Michael Jackson concert. Roddy Piper had never won a title before. And here now he's got the opportunity to win 2 belts. And that was tremendous. That was a great night. Royal Rumble 92 is one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time. Another one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time. ECW One Night Stand, the first one. Only because of the nostalgia. I wasn't necessarily like thinking that everything about it was the best, but just the nostalgia and the feeling behind it makes it one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time. It was very meaningful. Even though I wasn't a super ECW fan as a kid, I still had seen it enough for it to mean something to me until Bradshaw beat the shit out of the Blue Meanie, which I thought it was funny after I found out about it. I thought it was hilarious. But he wasn't right for that. Survivor Series 98 was pretty good, even though I think the tournament was kind of trash. The Deadly Game tournament was kind of garbage. But I still like the swerve at the end. I think the swerve at the end was a really good story. Really good story, Survivor Series 98. Survivor Series 2005, pretty good show too. Really like that. Back during the days of split brand pay-per-views, I think there was No Mercy 2006. I forget. I think it had MVP and Kane in an Inferno match, and Undertaker and Mr. Kennedy in a last ride match or something like that. And I think if I'm right, and I might not be, I think 2006 that'd have been after Eddie died. Cause I think 2005 is when he died, right? I'm not sure. I thought Eddie and Batista was on that same show, but I don't think so. I think it was a year before. But that was one of my, I wouldn't say it was my favorite pay-per-view of all time, but of the single brand pay-per-views that didn't have like cross brand stuff, that was one of my favorites. No Way Out 2006, Angle, Undertaker, tremendous shit right there. But I think that was overall a good show too. WrestleMania 21, one of my favorite shows of all time. WrestleMania 23, one of my favorite shows of all time. Got quite a few. It'd be hard because I don't remember most of them. Most of these shows I don't remember off the top of my head. So, Mo the Killer, do you see Edge winning the World Heavyweight Champion on Night of Champions? And have you seen Edge video on Twitter talking about the World Heavyweight Champion? So I was going to talk about that on SmackDown, but I'll talk about it tonight since Mo the Killer asked about it. Edge did a promo where he talked about the World Heavyweight Championship. It looks just like the big gold, the one he had to give up 12 years ago when he retired. He was forced to retire. And he was inspired by Cody's talking about finishing the story, and he thinks about how he got to finish his story and how his story is going to end. And you know what, dog? Woo, I really do. I really would not mind if Edge won that title. I really would not. I think it would be a great moment for the company. I think it would be a great moment for Edge. I think it would be a great moment to end his career on. And for him to be able to put over somebody that he really wants to put over, I think that it would work. Now, Edge doesn't really need the belt, but I would love it if he won. I think it would be a great capstone to his career, having two different versions of the World Heavyweight title on his record. That would be great. He would be officially, he didn't win the Universal title, but I would say he was, if he wrestles for that title, I think he'd be the only wrestler outside of maybe Seth Rollins if he gets to the main event that would have wrestled for every version of the WWE World title. He wrestled for the Undisputed title. He wrestled for the actual WWE Championship. He wrestled for the actual Undisputed title. He wrestled for the SmackDown title, which was the World Heavyweight Championship, the big gold belt. He wrestled for the Universal title. And if he makes it to the main event, he will wrestle for the World Heavyweight Championship, the second version, World Heavyweight Championship 2.0. He would have wrestled for every title the WWE had, except the light heavyweight belts and stuff like that. He wrestled for the U.S. title and won it. Wrestled for the Intercontinental title. He wrestled for the European title, if I remember correctly. I think he wrestled for every version of the tag team titles. Edge's been around since '98, so he's got those kinds of things on his record books. But I would love it if he won the titles. I would love it if he won the title. That would be great. It'd be great to start the lineage of that championship with a Hall of Famer like Edge. That would be great. I really do want him to win it after seeing that video. I do want him to win it. Apostle of JBL, how do you read your omnibus without damaging the spine of the book? That's interesting because usually I don't get books that are that big. Like if there's I have an Attack on Titan omnibus that is huge. I mean, you've seen those things. They're like bricks. Okay. Typically I don't open it all the way up. I would. Plus the paper is really thin on the manga. Now we talking about American comics. I would not buy an omnibus if I can avoid it. I wouldn't buy an omnibus at all. Because I've had books, omnibus, and you open them and they fall apart. I bought a couple of Witchblade omnibuy, tore the fucking spine off them joints, like just spine just cracked. And those are like regular trade paperbacks, but they were a little oversized. They clearly were not made for reading. They weren't made to be handled. Okay. I think omnibus is basically made for the bookshelf. You're supposed to have read everything in there already. I think that's generally the idea, is that you read everything in there already. Now you just want it in a bigger version. I think there is a channel out there there's a YouTube channel out there that teach you how to read omnibus without tearing the spine. I don't remember what it is though, because I don't buy omnibus. I try to avoid those if I can. The second question, which book or omnibus in your collection do you think would have the best value on eBay? Ooh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. Hmm. That's, I don't know. I generally don't know. Because again, I don't buy omnibus really, unless it's the entire thing collected in one book. I try to avoid the omnibus, so I really don't have that many. So I really don't have an answer to that question, because I think that if I did have one, I probably would have tore it up, like we were just talking about. I probably would have fucked it up by now. So I don't think I got one. I'm turning my bookshelf right now, and I don't see anything on here that would particularly jump out at anybody. Uh, I got a omnibus of Nick Fury, but the spine is broken on it. Nick Fury versus Shield. This book old as shit. Um, but the spine is broken on that joint, so it probably ain't worth anything. It's covered in tape, so it ain't worth anything. Um, yeah, I don't got nothing that's worth shit really. Everything that I got is pretty much mass produced. You can get it from anywhere. I don't got nothing rare. Ricky, what can you do different to your opponent to win the match and the title? I have no idea what you're talking about, but I would try to keep my shoulders off the mat and keep his shoulders on the mat. How about that? Luandil. There's been a debate for a while. Who do you think is the best wrestler turned actor? It's between Cena, Batista. Both have shown dramatic and comedic range. Who would you say? Best wrestler turned actor. Huh. Uh, The Rock has no range. Austin has no range. Hogan is terrible. Cena actually is not bad. He's shown a lot of range too. Um, it's hard to say. I think Cena by default because so many of he's done so much in such a short amount of time, and he's done different things, but he hasn't done like Batista wants to be an actor. He wants to be an actor. I don't know about that, dog. But Cena does pretty good stuff. AJ3's got three more questions. One, if Tony Khan and All Elite Wrestling are watching how Triple H and WWE botched the draft, what do you think AEW's draft will look like? I think it will actually be a little bit more. I think it'll be more along the ideological lines, more so than what I think what we've been saying about CM Punk and all those guys being able to pick people that they want in the draft. Seems like that's to be the way that it would go. That just feels like how it would go to me. That guys like Jungle Boy and the Young Bucks, they wouldn't want to deal with certain people and they wouldn't want certain people around. So they would basically use Collision as an opportunity to kick away people that they don't want to deal with. And that just seems like how things are going to end up being anyway. Second question. Why don't WWE and AEW ever capitalize on using current events and pop culture and make a big profit out of them anymore? Usually because current events and pop culture, you don't want to catch on to a trend. And if you catch on to a trend, then you're gone when the trend is gone. You should never really follow trends. That being said, though, there are some pop culture elements that people should probably jump on and try to involve themselves with. Like you see Liv Morgan talking about, oh, she's challenging Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B to a tag team match. It's ridiculous. Nobody's going to do that. And who the hell's going to pay to see that shit? But if they could do something, that would be great, But I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't want anything to do with that, if we're being honest. I really wouldn't want anything to do with that. Plus, I think Cardi B's got a preset feud with Lacey Evans already. 3, if WWE ever do a draft again, here's my pitch. How about announcing the draft after the end of WrestleMania? Strip all the championships instead of doing the usual stables and pick a champion, switch brands after picking NXT call-ups. No. Stripping the champions? No. You would defeat the purpose of the end of WrestleMania. The titles should matter. If everybody's just going to get stripped the next night, why should I care about who won the title now? If you're going to strip everybody once a year. No. I'm not going to go with that one. What they should do is they should announce the draft as a week or two after WrestleMania. That way people get a chance to bring the WrestleMania high down, then they switch up the rosters. That way you won't have to go into Backlash. Well, they want Backlash to be rematches and further storylines from WrestleMania, which I don't see why you need to do that. Sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's not. But I probably would go away from that idea and switch everybody up in May right? And start your new season in mid-April or mid-May, which is what they usually do already anyway. Lewandowski, would you have turned Cena heel in his prime years? Because a lot of people blame him for chasing older fans out of the product, but I've never seen proof. I would have just to make his character fresh. Damian Priest and the Judgment Day are looking to. Are we talking about multiple things here? Okay, would I have turned Cena heel? No, I would not have turned Cena heel because he was making too much money. Why would you turn Cena heel and jeopardize? Who are you going to replace him with? That's going to be the question. Like, nobody has the answer to that question. They'll just say, "Oh, random, barely mid card guy here, like Daniel Bryan or um, somebody like Batista." Like, look, the reason Cena ended up with that spot is because he was outselling everybody by a large margin. Why would you bother to try to belittle that at all? Like, it's poor business. I wouldn't have done it at all. I probably would have turned him when I found my next guy. Like, maybe turned him during a feud with Roman, because you think Roman is going to be the next guy, right? So probably would have turned him after that, or turned him after he got brutalized by Brock Lesnar, because it pretty much killed the Super Cena character. So probably, if I was going to turn him at all, it would have been at that point. Okay. The next statement says Damian Priest said the Judgment Day are looking to get championships. Which titles should each member get? That's a good question. But I'm definitely thinking like Priest and Dominic as the tag team champions. And are they on Raw or SmackDown? Are they on Raw, right? So that would be the Intercontinental title. Would I have Finn Balor win the Intercontinental Championship? Nah. So maybe Dominic and Damian Priest as the tag team champions. Let's see. Darren Miles has a couple of questions. How come a lot of the newer players in the NBA and sports analysis disrespect the older players, especially the 1960 era of the NBA? A lot of it comes from the sports reporters themselves. Like, they often they kind of cut the modern era, like the older era, off. Like, they think that those guys couldn't hang with the guys today. And part of that is true. Like, guys know far more about nutrition today than they used to. They're bigger, usually stronger, but they're less aggressive. It's a less aggressive league than it used to be. But that generational stuff, it happens a lot, especially in things that are predominantly black. I don't know why that is. Like, we love hip hop, but as soon as a rapper turns 40 or something like that, we kind of lose respect for him. We kind of look down on him. You 40 and you still rapping? I'm 26, nigga. So is Dubs. But yeah, it's like, but black people, a lot of it is the cool culture, and you can't be cool and old unless you're like Snoop Dogg or something like that. Then you're Unk, and that's about it. But cool is attached to being young in the black community, and for some reason we're stuck with that. And so you see a lot of that disrespect there because the young boys think that they're cooler, But there is some elements of today's athlete that they have over the past, but it's a completely different league. Darren Miles has a second question. What is your advice for a fatherless man? Get a father figure. If you had a father figure growing up, some type of mentor, whether it's either in a program or somebody in a church or a football coach, basketball coach, whatever, stay in touch with them. Get somebody who genuinely wants to see you succeed and stay in touch with that person. I'm not saying like sit under the learning tree all day, but stay in touch. If you got like, I never had a coach or anything like that, but if I played sports, like say I played high school football or something, I probably, and let's say I didn't have a father, which I do. I probably would like follow my coach on Facebook or something like that. And then if you got like advice, you need advice, hit him up and ask him. It's there's a lot of benefit to mentorships that are official and unofficial. In business, those things usually cost you money. To be a mentor is not you taking up somebody's time. And business people care more about their time. So you'll probably be paying people through the nose just to be their intern and to sit at the table and not talk. But in terms of like life advice, if you go to church or something like that, keep the older guys' names and stuff in your phone and text them every once in a while, ask for advice. Um, but the thing is, just don't assume that you know everything and that there's things that you don't know, specifically about being a man, about situations that you never learned how to deal with. Like, there's a lot of guys who could learn lessons about, let's say, getting cheated on, how how it would be best to handle that situation. What's the best way to deal with your girlfriend um, cheating on you, or a broken heart, or being the victim of a crime. Like, a lot of dudes get radicalized because something happened, a car got stolen, they got mugged, they got jumped and beat up or something like that. You might need advice on how to work through that. And your peers are all going to be about the same kind of shit you're on usually. Get back, that ego, whatever. An older man may give you a little bit more perspective, may be able to help you out. So I definitely think that you should keep an OG, keep an uncle or a dude at church, or a football coach or something that you can just go to and be like, I need some life advice. I need to ask you a question. And there are situations that men need to be able to talk to other men about, because you don't want to certain things you just don't want to tell women, and certain things you can't really share with women. Some people will say get a therapist. I wouldn't tell you to get a therapist. I don't believe in therapy, if we're being honest. I think you can talk things out and you can tell people how you feel, but sometimes that helps. But that's usually all it is people sitting down being paid to listen to you talk. But it might not be the right environment. You might need to be able to get somebody who can relate to you and talk to you in a way that might even be unprofessional. Because again, a therapist still has to maintain some level of professionalism. So, but somebody else might just be able to keep it real with you and then be like, look, this is what it is. And that might be what you need, So I say get a mentor of some kind, maybe an older guy at work that you respect, somebody like that. And not saying like adopt them as a father figure, but understand that he might know things that you don't as a younger man, and ask questions, and if it evolves into that sort of father figure kind of thing, cool. If it doesn't, then you still got some advice from an older man, which is what you would need from like your dad. You need his experience. Like, you need to have seen how he interacts with your mom, how he interacts with your brothers and sisters, and how he interacts with the world. You need to see that, because that informs you how you need to deal with that. So you need to have older people around you. Like, we all need elders. Even when you get old, you're gonna still need an elder. Because you still may have personal issues that you haven't gotten through yet. So just be humble and don't be afraid to find elders, or even sometimes younger people who might be on the ball, and try to absorb as much game as you can. His third question: how would you book Sting in AEW? Because his run so far hasn't been that good. I think they're doing the best that they can. Sting is 60. It's not much you can do. Sting is 60. What more can you do, really? He's doing tag matches. I think that's the best they can do with him. What is your thoughts on sneakerhead culture? I don't like sneakerhead culture personally, but everybody's got their hobbies. Like, I collect comic books and manga and shit. Some people collect gym shoes. I mean, it is what it is. I think sneakerhead culture is kind of weird because you put shoes on and you put them on the ground, and yet you spend so much time cleaning them. You know, like you don't want your shoes to get dirty or filthy or whatever. Like, okay, why you put them on the ground then? You know, so you got to make a decision. But some people, they buy shoes because they think shoes are like art. You know, they put them on display or they think they can resell them or whatever. That works too. So I don't necessarily, it's not necessarily my thing, but you know, everybody's got their something. Some people collect like weird T-shirts. I don't know about that. Um, Another question: how come some people say America lost its innocence after 9/11? I think the country definitely took a hard turn after 9/11 because it was one of those things where we never thought it would happen here, like terrorism, you know, mass death like that. It was something that had always happened in other places. You know, like we had the Oklahoma City bombing in like '95. That didn't really change the country. You know, we adopted a whole new set of laws and everything after 9/11. Like the, I think if you say lost its innocence, people who say that, I would think they would be thinking that we were a relatively conservative country. And I don't mean that just politics. I mean that everybody was kind of, hey, the government might be getting too big. Neither one of us wants a security state. Neither one of us wants a police state. Nobody wants, you know, the FBI to be informing on their neighbors. Pretty much everybody, I wouldn't say Democrats were, but pretty much a lot of people were pissed off about Waco and Ruby Ridge and the government spying on individuals. About even if they were selling guns and stuff like that, people was kind of like, I don't know about that one. And then 9/11 happened, and now everybody's scared of terrorism. So now everybody's like, oh my God, terrorists! They're terrorists everywhere. Everyone's a terrorist. And so then the Patriot Act passed, and now there's people who will make excuses for why the government should be able to hack your smartphone and, you know, track your internet. And what's wrong? What are you hiding? It's like, I don't think you would have heard that in 97 or 96. People would have shouted you down and cussed you the fuck out. But in 2016, people are making all kinds of excuses about why somebody should be able to kick in the door to your house. You know, like, what? The government should just have the right to do whatever they want because we're trying to root out terrorism. We're scared of terrorism. And then it just bloomed from there. We went from being scared of terrorism to being scared of racism. And now we're scared of trans people. And look, y'all know how I feel about the trans issue, but I still don't think it's anybody's business if people want to be trans or not. I don't think the government should be, you know, spying on trans people and, you know, all of it in trans people's business. That's nonsense. What the fuck? But it's all just an outgrowth of the Patriot Act. You know, you got this whole thing where everybody is now spooked. I don't like the drag queen story hour, but I respect that certain people are want to expose their children to that. So that's up to them. But it should be in a private setting where the parents are going to be held accountable if something happens. It shouldn't be in a library or a school or anything like that, or any public place. But you know, it is what it is. Because I don't think the state should be involved with that kind of stuff. But the government making you afraid of things and then making you okay with passing all sorts of laws in order to limit that thing, and then you never really realize how it grows. Things grow out of that, you know. But I would say the country really got fucked after the Civil Rights Act, and we don't. I don't think y'all ready for that kind of character yet. Y'all ain't ready for that side yet. When we start talking about the Civil Rights Act, we don't want that. Another question he's got: would you rather take all the Mick Foley bumps or be a CZW wrestler for 1 year? I think that if you are a CZW wrestler for 1 year, you're probably going to take all the Mick Foley bumps at that point. I hate heights. I really do. But taking that one bump, if I had to get thrown off the cell one time versus wrestling in CZW and getting cut up and I don't know what is like every weekend or something like that. That one bump sucks though. And it caused like a long-term damage to him. So I don't know. That would be a good one because falling from a high place even one time, you could break your rib cage, you could break your hip or something like that. That's permanent damage. being a ZZW wrestler is still wrestling, but you might fall on the floor from the balcony or something like that, or somebody might want to jump off the balcony, or somebody might want to try to set you on fire or some shit. I don't know, man. Um, so I don't know. That's a good question. That's a tough one. Here's another one. What are your thoughts? The PTC censoring everything from wrestling to old SpongeBob episodes. The PTC or parent teacher conference, parent teacher council or something like that. Um, I'm not in favor of censorship, and that's just being general. There's still certain things that I don't like that I think people should cover up that I'm not a huge fan of. But generally speaking, I don't really like censorship. Lolly porn is not right, and I'm not going to hold you up. Lollies in and of themselves, are they're kind of weird. Like I'll say it. I got some lolly stuff over here. Okay, um, it's uncomfortable. You know, I have to I have to live with those panels because I like the stories. But I'm not necessarily a big fan of the lolly stuff. The adult girl who looks like a child. Like, I'm not saying that stuff should be censored, but I would be remiss if I didn't say those characters shouldn't be like topless. Those characters shouldn't be in sexual situations. You know, if you're gonna have like a 10,000-year-old vampire and she looks like a 13-year-old girl, then maybe we shouldn't like take her shirt off at any point in time. Maybe we shouldn't be doing upskirts. That's that's the kind of stuff that kind of bothers me. Rape scenes. I don't like rape scenes. I can't stand it. I hate rape scenes. I'm not a big fan at all. But I wouldn't censor them. You know. So I don't know. Generally speaking, something for everybody. But I do believe in tags. I do believe that not trigger warnings, but if there is something in there that people might not want to deal with, I feel like they should know. Like I absolutely 100% respect that the Japanese label gay stuff. They gay books and stuff like that. I 100% support that because they letting you know off rip this is what it is. This is a boys' love story. It's going to be two male characters falling in love. It might be sexual. It might just be implied. I don't know. But it's clear when you pick it up and it's on the spine of the book that it's gay. You know, you can't be surprised afterwards. Like, again, a lot of the lolly stuff that I got, well, some of it is I ordered the book online without reading it. I get it from my pull list. I get home, I open it up, and it's there. I'm like, okie dokie. I already got it. It's already on my pull list. Usually, I already like the story from the synopsis or whatever. But as long as it's not overtly sexual, I can deal with it. If it ever gets overtly sexual, I'm just gonna have to cancel the book, even if it's in the middle of it. But I think that if something has like extreme violence and gore, and people might not like it, it should be labeled. If just like allergies, some people are allergic to peanuts. You should be able to tell people if there's peanuts and stuff because they might have an allergy to it. So that's how I would deal with censorship. Is I would just say use your best judgment in informing the audience what's in the product or what's on the product. Therefore, people would make the decision themselves about whether they want to see it or not. Like, people are making the decision to not watch certain movies because of how woke they are. And usually you can figure it out from the director or the actors or the commercial or the trailer or whatever. You can get a good feel for how woke the movie is and you just won't watch it. But because it's a signal to the people who are woke that it's safe for them to watch. So you just choose not to watch it. Okay. Darren Miles says, I remember you saying on a live stream that supermodels really don't get respected. How come? I'm not sure if I ever said this, but it sounds like something I would say. It sounds like something I would say, but I don't remember ever saying it. When would I be talking about supermodels? there is a lot of work that goes into being a supermodel. You know, like we typically think that chicks who are supermodels, they, they fuck some dude and they all of a sudden now they're millionaires. It's like they're judged by their looks, so they have that's their bread and butter. Therefore, they put a lot of effort and work into their looks. And while I don't necessarily appreciate what they do in terms of I don't have any use for supermodels, some people like supermodels. I mean, I guess, and I appreciate the effort they put in. How they eat so little and stay 96 pounds for 22 years, and then I don't see how they do that. Like they look malnutritioned. Like it's so weird that it's that way. The very rich and the very poor are both malnutrition. I don't get that. Next question: what's your thoughts on MTV News shutting down? Also, the decline of the channel in general. And do you think Vice News and Complex took MTV's place? Oh, MTV started suffering with the fall of music videos, basically YouTube. When you started being able to put up music videos anywhere, there's no need for MTV anymore. But by that point, MTV had already kind of started siphoning off their videos and replacing it with original television programs. And these usually original television programs were stuff like The Real World or Road Rules or shows aimed at the 14 to 18 demographic. So the early college, the late teen, early 20s demographic, especially like at certain hours, you would start seeing shows like Undressed. You would start seeing like Jackass and cursing and so MTV leaned hard into a generation that flipped on it. That was part of the problem right there. Like a lot of the people right now who are super woke are from the MTV generation. You know, they were now their parents were like the really early MTV generation. The girls just want to have fun, Madonna generation. But my generation, the people who were like 16, 17, and 2000, you know, that was MTV near the apex of its power because it wasn't just music videos anymore. It was music videos, it was TRL, it was the Road Rules, Real World. Real World was the first ever reality show. I remember watching that shit on TV. I used to love watching the Real World. It was so fun. Now it's, everything MTV did, other things bit and took it and ran with it. MTV did music videos. Then BET started doing music videos because they wasn't showing enough rap videos, not enough soul. So BET and VH1 took chunks out of MTV because they were showing more black stuff. Then you started seeing MTV go into the reality TV with Real World and Road Rules, and now everything today is reality TV. The VH1 stole that philosophy, like Flavor of Love and all that kind of stuff, and they took it off, and they've been running with it ever since. So you just basically had MTV, a lot of stuff. They had their audience aged out, and now we have a unique problem in the United States that we never really had before, and that is we're having fewer children. So now we have a channel dedicated to teenagers, and there's fewer teenagers now than ever before. Like there was a big story not too long ago about children's channels like Noggin and Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, etc., losing tons of money. And people are like, why is this? What's going on? It's like, because the only people who watch those fucking networks are adults now. Nobody's having fucking children. All right. The Disney adult is what happened to all the childhood media. The Disney adult took over, and now they making hardcore Winnie the Pooh. It's like these people are assholes, man. They ruined everything good, and MTV is just one of them. I think Catfished might have been the last hit MTV had. MTV hit money with Catfished. Ooh wee, that shit had me by the balls, bro. I'm telling you, I was watching Catfish like, you can't even see me. I was in here like shit, but that was the last hit MTV had. I don't think they had a hit show since. But it's all about the audience aged out, you know. As far as Vice and Complex, I think Vice took a chunk out of MTV too because they were newer, grungier. They were going more into socialistic things, like, they would have TV shows like Abandoned, where you go through an entire neighborhood of abandoned neighborhoods, what they used to call poverty porn. And then because they were progressives, they started getting attacked by progressives and they stopped doing it. So it's not a surprise at all that Vice went out of business and Complex and all this kind of stuff because they just started following what they were told to do. Stop doing these shows that highlights impoverished people. Do more shows about weed because that's really all Vice was about, was drugs. Like it came to a certain point where Vice wasn't shit, but Vice News, Dark Side of the Ring, and shit about drugs. And that's the kind of shit MTV might have did in the '90s, but Vice was, they specialized in it. And Complex really just jumped into the music scene and took over. They did a really good job. Um, Here's another. What is the point of the gala? I'm guessing you mean the Met Gala. And it's just a bunch of rich people showing off artsy clothes. I don't know what the point is, to be quite honest. I don't think there's a point for the regular guy to understand when it comes to those shows. Another one. How can people think the show Friends is funny? I don't know. I never watched an whole entire episode of Friends. Every time I see a clip, I just don't. It's not like I tried watching like a lot of those shows, those quote unquote white comedies, and Seinfeld jumped out at me as being like legitimately funny, like legitimately a funny ass show that I would watch by myself, let alone with other people. But Friends never caught on with me like that. I don't know. I never got it. I never got like Big Bang Theory. I never got Third Rock from the Sun. There's just a lot of shows that I didn't get, but I did get Roseanne. I understood Roseanne. Um, His final question: how come some black women be pro-black, cry about colorism, but go out procreate with a white man? Well, because they hate themselves. That's the thing is, I shouldn't say that. The all the honesty of it all is this: people don't like those that reject them. They don't. If they feel like you're rejecting them, it's a problem. But if they reject you, it's fine. It's just a preference. Like that, what's that idiot broad who said she wouldn't date a bus driver? What if a bus driver came out and said he wouldn't date her? She'd probably get in her feelings. But she said the same damn thing. I wouldn't date a bus driver. He doesn't own the bus. It's like, yeah, I understand where she's coming from. But who says that the bus driver even wants her? He might not even want her. She a bitch. He wants somebody to make kids with and play house. He don't want some high powered lawyer broad who wants to stay up all night, polishing her awards and not wanting to lay up and have kids. Like he wants to have fucking babies. You know, he wants to be the man of his household and have children and procreate and stuff like this. You want to have your career and then have toy children. You don't want to be a mother. You just want to have children right now because you're getting old and you want to do it before you go. You don't really have any feelings to be a mom, you know? And a lot of blue collar guys, that's what they want. They don't necessarily want their woman to be lesser than. What they want is a simple household, wife, children. They do things together. They spend time together. But she was so quick to reject that because she has been rejected by them. And that's the thing that a lot of people have missed in this whole conversation about that lady is how many times do you think she probably got somebody saw her, said she was a beautiful woman, found out what she did for a living, was like, yeah, you know what, she probably got a nasty attitude, pass. And then she started rejecting, they don't make enough money, they don't do this, they don't do that. It's like, I guarantee you, the right bus driver shows up, she'll jump in his goddamn arms. Okay. If he was the right bus driver and he could, talk that game and she thought she could control him and all that kind of shit, she'd jump in his arms. The difference is Who's to even say that dude will want her? He wants something different out of his life. It's not necessarily that he's intimidated because she makes more money. It's just that they want different things out of life. She wants to spend time on her career, and that's what she wasted her youth doing. Now, most dudes are not interested in you after you done threw your whole youth away chasing millions of dollars. Like, good on you, sweetheart, for collecting, but you're not a man. You don't have what men want. Men want young women to settle down with and raise children, not some high power lawyer broad who again wants to sit around all day and polish her trophies and not have any fucking babies. You should have settled down a long time ago. If she'd have got married 15 years ago to before she started making all this money, she would have the babies that she wanted. She would have the man that she wanted. But she kept going, focused on her career, which is her right to do, and now she's fucked. But she started rejecting middle class men, middle and lower class men, because they rejected her. Typically they didn't want to deal with a woman who was like her, who had the attitude like her. In order to get in her position, you got to have a certain kind of temperament. That's what we talk about when you talk about men, right? In order to be a man and get into a certain position in the world, you got to have a certain temperament. You got to have a certain work ethic. So if you're a woman with that temperament and that work ethic, and you get those degrees and you get those checks and you get that job, why would that man want you? You have completely different situation. He don't want you. So the idea that she dissing bus drivers and people are taking up for the bus drivers, that's nice and all. But guess what? That man don't want her. Okay? Trust me, that man do not want her. Right? The dude who does want her wants to live off of her. He wants to lay up under her, fuck her brains out, and then go and use her credit card. Any other man is probably going to be like, we got two different interests. We're not interested in that. And so the whole colorism and all that kind of stuff is the same thing. It's dark-skinned women hearing that they were ugly their whole lives. They desire to prove that they're not ugly. So they go try to get a high-value man, which is usually a white man, in order to prove, hey, look at me, I'm not ugly. I got me a white man. And in other words, most people just didn't want you anyway, sister. Yeah, it's unfortunate. But a lot of it is self-hatred. A lot of it is just rejection of things that rejected you. Whew, that was a long list of questions. Sheesh. You ain't got many left though. To the comment section. Vegeta Lover 92. Is it true Christopher go back in 2012 and look at the Summer of Punk? What are we talking about here? Honestly, both men and women who are pro-ethnic end up procreating with their oppressor, Donald Glover making this America while marrying a white woman. Yeah, amazing how that works out. See, the thing is, there's a lot of middle-class people who do that stuff, though. They grew up around white people. White people are all their entire peer group, and then they end up marrying Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, right? They're all Democrats, too, by the way. Just imagine how that works. So many of these people, like, look, I don't blame them because I don't hate interracial dating. I wouldn't do it because I'm afraid of getting hit with a rape charge. But it's not a problem, for people to date outside of their race, because you date within your social circle. And when you get to a certain level of success, there's more people of a different race in your social circle if you're black. Like if you're a black musician, either you're going to be banging hood chicks, you're going to be banging R&B singers or hood rats or, club girls, models and that kind of stuff, video chicks. That's like the number one thing for rappers because they are around all the time. It's not like they go out and look for these chicks. It's like I was talking about with Vince McMahon, right? Like he was banging the secretaries and all that kind of stuff because they were there. He don't got time to go and date. When you're a busy person, you don't have time to go on Tinder and find a fucking date. You don't got time to go to the club, meet somebody, and go on a date. You're gonna fuck whoever is interested in you and they're the closest to you because you're busy. You're doing stuff. So you're like, okay, I'm in this social circle. Everybody's around me is of a different race. I'm gonna date within my social circle. People who understand my story and understand what I'm doing. If that person happens to be a different race, then so be it. That's why so many Asians end up dating white people. Because when they get to a certain level, there's only white people in their social circle, you know? So it's like you become like a chemist or something like that. How many black people are really in your social circle? Not many. Like if you when you see a lot of mixed race families, usually it's a situation where they're in the same social circle. They work together, they work in the same office building or something like that, that kind of thing. And it's the same thing everybody does. So I'm not really surprised at all that people interracial date in that way, you know? But the issue is when you come out and you say stuff like so and so are is my oppressor. It's like if that's the case, you really wouldn't even be looking at white people in a sexual manner. If you really thought all white people was oppressing you, why the hell would you let one slide on top of you? It's because you don't really believe that shit. In her social circle is mostly white men. So of course you're gonna get a white man and fuck him. Why not? Why not? Why wouldn't you? Unless you're just not gonna date. Not gonna be a lot of Hispanic males in her social circle. Especially when she curates her social circle to create the most diverse way possible, where any Hispanic male is probably going to be gay or trans or something, and therefore not interested in her. The only person who's going to be interested is the straight white male. So, but that's just kind of how it is. And that's really when you say, you start asking questions. Like, I don't ask any questions about Clarence Thomas having a white wife. So what? He ain't never said anything about white people oppressing him and how white people are trying to hold him down. But I do look and I see AOC married to a white. I see Don Lemon on TV saying that the white man is, the devil or he's the real terrorist, and he goes home to a white man every night. What? What are you telling me? Really? You full of shit, bro. It's not real. Because he's dating within his social circle. His social circle is gonna be mostly white males. And that's not a problem, but don't tell me that the white man's the devil and you fucking him. Why you fucking the devil, bro? Why are you doing that? Why is Alondra Ocasio-Cortez fucking the devil? Why is she doing that? I don't know. And I used to say the same thing about Malcolm X. His mama was like half white or something like that. People used to use that against him, like, oh, he must hate like half his family tree. I'm like, he probably didn't even meet those people. He probably never met the white part of his family. They're probably so far removed. But it's not much of a surprise to me that a lot of people who have racial animosity end up either being mixed race themselves or they end up mixed racing. And usually that's where a lot of it comes from, is that they had a lot of the Eddie Kingston problem. He's not Irish enough for the Irish, not Puerto Rican enough for the Puerto Ricans. And usually you get that a lot with like the middle class black people on TV. They were never black enough. And so now they go on TV and they talk about how the white man is the devil. Meanwhile, they're fucking them. So that's weird. AJ3, remember Jackson Riker when he announced his retiring from the world of pro wrestling? Sad, isn't it? Well, he wasn't going to get anywhere, really. I think it's better for him to get out now and probably find his true calling, because this wrestling thing wasn't going to work out for him. Look, despite the fact that he did get canceled on some dumb shit, he wasn't very good at it. He legitimately was not very great at being a wrestler. It'd have been one thing if he was a really good wrestler who got canceled for stupid politics. There's another thing for him to be like a wildly mediocre wrestler to get canceled for his politics. Then nobody's going to look to, have his back. But it is sad that was the end of his career. Like, that sucked, for his career to end that way. Top Dog, Spike TV from the 2000s to the mid 2010s was better than MTV during that time peak. TNA, Impact, 10,000 Ways to Die, UFC, etc. You are correct. I think you noticed it because I was thinking about it as you were talking, but Spike TV did do a lot of damage to MTV because Spike TV overlapped in terms of demographics. Like MTV was very pushed by males. You started seeing like the X Games and Jackass before Ridiculousness and all that kind of stuff came out. They tried the wrestling thing. Males really pushed MTV. It wasn't until later that they started moving into the more feminist thing. When Spike TV came out of nowhere, it was an explicitly male network that was going after explicitly male audiences. And it did a lot of damage to MTV, you know? So you're right. It did do a lot of damage to MTV. WG Phil says Catfish was awesome, but mostly MTV is pushing a lot of woke stuff and reruns of Martin and other black sitcoms. That is unfortunate for right now, even though I do like Martin. Top Dog, do you think your generation are adult children? I do. I do think a lot of us are adult children. I'm probably one myself at this point. But a lot of it comes from, not having parents ourselves. A lot of us are the children of crackheads and drug fiends and people who've been in and out of jail, and or fathers that just plain disappeared. And it's going to get worse. Like, it's getting worse for white people now. Like, you're seeing a lot of children who were born and with no parents, no raised by the granddad and all that kind of shit. So we just got like stunted growth, I think. Like, they used to be talking about, like, when you see like these videos and stuff, and they show black people in the 1950s, and they're dressed real nice. Nobody's wearing too many, hoochie outfits, nothing really tight and over the top. They having dances, they going to the lemonade stand and all this kind of stuff. And then you realize, like, these people were getting married at 18. They're getting married at 17, because your granddad probably about to get drafted to the war. Like, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Like, the generations following Vietnam were all voluntary military, So my dad went to Korea, but I didn't go. My brothers didn't go. My uncle didn't go. So we've got entire generations of men who didn't go to war. So they didn't get married young. So they spent their 20s or whatever sowing their wild oats. And some of these people are wild oats. They're the child of a guy who was in a long-term relationship with one girl. They got into an argument. He went over to her best friend's house, fucked her, got her pregnant, then went back. And it's a terrible situation. But it's not like, he was in Korea, he went to Korea, or something like that, and had a life altering, something that forced you to grow up. And plus, we grew up with video games. We are like the first generation of Disney adults who go to like Disney movies by themselves. Like, it's weird. Like, it's really, really weird. And I feel that way. Like, I didn't want to go see Guardians of the Galaxy in the theaters for that very reason. Because I don't want to be a Disney adult, and I'm not, because I never was a Disney guy anyway. But I realized that, still watching wrestling, still reading comic books and stuff like that, I see how people will take it. I understand the Matt Walsh conservative types, and their bullshit rhetoric. I understand it. I should care about the stock market. But the thing is, I do know about the stock market. I do know about geopolitics and world politics and about, abortion and shit, But I think our generation has smartened up and realized a lot of that stuff is boring, and we want to spend our lives doing stuff that we enjoy to do. But it's a very childish pursuit quite often, And so I see it from both ways. The more of us grow up doing things that we want to do, not doing things that we feel like we have to do, because we don't have to do shit. We don't have to do anything. That's the one thing you learn in life. You don't have to do nothing. That's one thing you learn as you get older, is like, people expect you to grow up, get a job, go get your education, etc. Like, you realize at some point you don't got to do that. You don't got to do shit. I got to go do what? I don't got to do nothing. All right. But it depends on what you want out of life. And I think a lot of my generation realized what they wanted out of life was to enjoy their lives and not work themselves to death. Like, I don't think there was a such thing as work-life balance until my generation came along. Then they started talking about work-life balance. I can't work because it's cutting into my time playing God of War. Like, some people are like, man, that's childish. But if I enjoy playing God of War, it's my time. Like, it is what it is. So I see it from both perspectives, though. So, but I do think that my generation are essentially big children, and there's positives to that, and there's negatives to that. The negatives is that a lot of them tend to be socialist because they expect the government to handle everything. We have to expect mommy and daddy and grandpa and all of them to take care of everything. Take care of society, take care of the banking crisis, the whole housing crisis, the mentally ill, everything. We just offload everything onto the government because that's the only way we can do it. And then we have more time to play video games and do YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff. And I know I'm kind of talking about myself right now, but I've done my fair share of like neighborhood cleanups, volunteer work. I've done all that kind of shit already. I did my fair share of that stuff. And not because I got arrested, but because it was in my heart to do. So I know how hard a lot of this stuff is. But I also know that you only get one turn around this rock. Unless you're a hardcore Christian and think you're coming back, you know, you only get one turn around this rock. Why not do things the way you want to do it? And not worry about being a 1950s man like your dad was or your grandpa was. Because if you're my age, your dad would have been born in the 60s or in the late 50s. I think my dad was born in 1960, maybe 1960 exactly. That would make him no, he was born in the 50s. Because my mom was born in the 50s. He was born in 1956. My mom was born in 1958. So you like these people grew up in the 60s. They grew up in the 70s. The world was a harsher place, but we grew up in abundance. Even if you were poor in the 80s or 90s, you had access to video games. And even if you were like really poor, somebody had a Nintendo, you know? So VCRs, a lot of technology that our parents didn't have and didn't know how to use. And I think that's part of how we ended up being adult children. We had a lot of technology we could offload our time to. We didn't focus on reading a lot. Play video games and watch, go to Blockbuster and get movies. First generation that ever had shit like that. Our parents didn't have videotapes. If you didn't watch a TV show when it was on the air, you missed it. But my generation had tapes. I could go back and watch shit if I wanted to. Or I could just stay in the house and watch, like I said, we talked about Forrest Gump earlier. I could just sit and watch Forrest Gump all fucking day if I wanted to. Just rewind the tape. First generation with tapes. First generation with video games in their house. Like, even if you want to count pinball as a video game, you had to go to somewhere to play pinball, right? You had to leave your house to play pinball. Didn't have to leave my house to play pinball. I could play Pong in my fucking house. Pac-Man in the fucking house if I wanted to. First generation with that stuff. So yeah, a lot of that is led to a prolonged childhood, I think. I think it's mostly technology and lacking in parents, that taught us good skills. But, it's up to you to learn that shit. Ninja, what do you think of guys getting $70,000 height surgery? I think that they probably gonna. Somebody said on Twitter when I saw about this. Somebody says that you still unattractive. You just taller. I think that if you think that is only one thing keeping you from getting the girl of your dreams, you're a far cry from making it work. It's not ever going to be one thing. It's not just because you will be perfect if he was only 3 inches taller, and then you go get these 3 inches, and now you happily ever after. No, not likely. Not likely. WG Phil, I'm ready for that side, Mongo. Let's talk about the Civil Rights Act. Let's just say the Civil Rights Act was that and the Civil War, the top two violations of private property ever put on the books in the United States. Is there a surprise that we don't respect private property rights? And at that point, you can't really have a capitalist system if you don't have full control over your private property. So when you start asking questions like, financial inequality and stuff like that, people will say, well, we had inequality at one point and we violated the Constitution in order to do it. Why can't we do it again? And again, and again, and again, and again. And that's what we've been doing. We violated the Constitution for black people during the Civil Rights Act. Are you surprised they're not doing it for gays and Hispanics and trannies? And whoever else they make, robots, AI, who else? What next? Because you thought it was a good idea to do it that first time. The Civil War. I tell people all the time, and I forget who I said it to, but the Civil War, where the North decided that the South was so disgusting, they were going to invade them, kill them, and change their way of life. Well, isn't that sound like what we're doing to Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria and all those other countries? Yeah. And every good liberal will tell you it's the right thing to do. We had to end slavery. So you believe that we could just invade countries we don't like, take them over, which the North did to the South, took it over, and that's okay because there were slaves there. There were slaves there. There were weapons of mass destruction. There were terrorists there. It's all the same shit, man. It's all the same shit. Once you start making excuses for invading foreign countries, because technically when the South succeeded, it became a foreign country and they invaded a foreign country, right? So technically they invaded a foreign country for a made up monkey shit reason. They didn't really give a fuck about slaves, if we're being honest. They didn't give a fuck about slaves. It wasn't about slaves. It was about economic expansion. All right? That's what the fuck the Civil War was about. And the Civil Rights Act was not about black people. It was about violating the private property rights of individuals. Because if I can control who you, I said this before on the channel, I'm pretty sure I did. If I control who you hire, who you can fire, where you can be, how long you can stay open, what you must charge, how much you must pay somebody, how many hours they must work in a day or in a week or whatever. If I control all of that, who controls the business? You or me? I fucking run the business. So when the government tells you who you have to hire, it's like they do in California where they say you have to hire women for the board. They do that under the Civil Rights Act. It's just Title IX and all that shit. It's just an extension of the Civil Rights Act. So when you start saying has to be a certain number of women in a company, the government just controls who runs. They control the fucking company at that point. Because who's to say, how many women should be in a place? What's the correct number that will stop me from getting sued? Well, there is no correct number. When you realize you can get sued for inviting a woman out for lunch and for refusing to invite a woman out for lunch, you're fucked. And the Civil Rights Act started all that shit. Because it started with discrimination. We started acting like discrimination was the worst thing in the world. And discrimination sucks. I know it does. But look at what you created when you created that situation. When you put your finger on that lever and said, I agree with shit like the Civil Rights Act. What you did was you basically said the government should step in when I think something is unequal and fix it. So now guess what happened? Oh, this thing is unequal. We should step in and fix it. Every single fucking time. Now they're talking about Reparations. I was just watching Actual Justice Warrior, his video, and they were talking about in Denver doing some kind of white tax, quote unquote, where they would take money from white owned businesses and give it to black owned businesses. Where would you even come up with this idea? You know, it's just an outstretch of the Civil Rights Act. It's all based off inequality. I don't think these things are equal. I can pass laws to make it equal. Who's to say? How can you do that? Where do you get that power from? Well, I get it from the government. The government doesn't have that power. You read the Constitution, there's nothing in there that says that the government should make everybody equal. Everybody is equal before the law, not equal in wealth, not equal in skill, not equal in all ways. No, that makes no sense. That is completely inhuman. This is how you end up starving people in Russia and Ukraine, okay? It doesn't work. But we do it anyway. Now we're talking about, in South Africa, no, Zimbabwe, where they took all the farms from the white people, gave it to the blacks. It wasn't that they gave it to the retarded black people and now they don't know how to farm. It's that people who knew what they were doing got their stuff taken from them and it was given to people who didn't know what they were doing. And they did the same damn thing in other parts of Africa where they ran the Nigerians out and they took their property and gave it to, like, I think it was Kenya, where they ran out all the Nigerians and they gave it to Kenyans and they fucked it up because they didn't build it. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing. So now you're talking about the exact same thing. Socialist systems, same thing. Take from somebody because we don't think they should have it. Whites, Jews, men, no matter who it is, we're going to take stuff from you, give it to somebody else. But it all started with, we're going to force you to hire people you don't want to hire. We're going to punish you if you fire people that you don't want anymore. Then it got to the point where we got these disparate impact laws, right? Disparate impact, what that means is if something appears to be discriminatory, you have to prove that it's not. It is literally the only law in the United States where you are guilty and you have to prove that you are innocent. Discrimination laws are the only laws in the United States where you have to prove that you did everything you possibly could not to be discriminatory. So at that point, what you get from there is human resources. Did you, send, oh, you run a sexist work environment? No, I don't. Nobody in my office says negative things about women. Well, did you educate them on, diversity, equity, and inclusion? No, I didn't think I needed to do that. Well, those types of trainings exist, and if you don't have them, then you didn't do everything that you could possibly do. So guess what? Everybody goes out and gets them a diversity counselor or whatever the fuck, who comes in talking about white fragility and starts talking about all this other garbage. And some people are going to soak it up and believe it. The company's going to rake it into their bylaws because guess what? Your ignorance is not an excuse. Look at the WWE lawsuit. If I feel that Bianca Belair taking off her earrings made her look ghetto, I can sue you. What? Where did all this shit come from? It came from discrimination laws. And discrimination laws come from like the Civil Rights Act. It goes back to the Civil War, but the Civil Rights, I mean, it's not like, the South was great. South being, invaded and killed, is, burnt and everything was, no skin off my ass. It was a long time ago. But I know it wasn't about slaves. I know the Civil Rights Law was not about helping black people. That was only you became the face of the Civil Rights Act. You're not really what the Civil Rights Act is about. It's all about playing the long game. Oh, you don't want to be a racist, do you? Like, no. Then you need to hire some black people. You need to accept these discrimination laws. Oh, you think, and I'm as a man with dreadlocks, you can't fire people for having dreadlocks anymore and whatever. You can't have preferences anymore. Whatever you think professional looks like is what you should be able to use as professional at your workplace. Right or wrong, if you are a private business owner, you should be able to say, I don't want people with visible tattoos. No visible tattoos. And then they'll pull some bullshit. Well, black females have more visible tattoos than whites. So that's racist. It's like, no, because I didn't create that scenario. So no, it's not racist. The rule exists. And then you find people who fit into that. That's not my fault. Like the when people didn't hire felons. I think that, the felons things is kind of weird. But people say they didn't hire felons. And then you would say, well, that's a racist law because black people are more likely to be felons than white people. Well, when the guy said that he doesn't hire felons, he didn't say he didn't hire black felons. He said he doesn't hire felons. Okay, so, but people will find ways to make that fit. We do that shit all the time. There's mass incarceration because black people end up in jail more than white people. Okay, do black people commit more crimes than white people do? Yes, but that's not the point. The point is, white people got arrested more than white. So now we're going to create laws where a guy can, punch people in the face and push people in front of trains and everything and walk away from it. Because heavens to Betsy, we don't want to lock up another black man. They got it bad enough. It's like, come on, it's bullshit. And now you've got complete and total societal destruction from that. You no longer hold people responsible for their own behavior because they're poor black people. So poor black people don't have any morals. They don't have any character. They don't have any agency. At that point, who are they but wards of the state? They are the protected party of the state. You're a lapdog of the state. And anytime you say anything about this stuff, they'll say, what about the Civil War? What about the Civil Rights Act? And then you'll know why I say the Civil War and the Civil Rights Act are a problem. I literally sat and watched Jordan Peterson get trapped up with that bullshit when he was talking to that Australian guy. When he said that usually government getting involved with something is not right. And then the guy said, what about the Civil Rights Act? And then Jordan Peterson was like, yes, that was the right thing to do. And then he looked dumb because he immediately jumped right on it and said, I'm still behind the Civil Rights Act, not knowing that's the fucking justification for everything. Everything is justified by the Civil Rights Act and the fucking Civil War. They feel like they can do whatever they want. Now, you want to start talking about the Federal Reserve. That's different. Now you're talking about the financial destruction of the country. That's different. I'm talking about social, political stuff, right? And if you read Barry Goldwater's Conscience of a Conservative, and he explained in that book why he was against the Civil Rights Act. If you Google him, they'll just say he was a racist. That's why he was against the Civil Rights Act. But that's what they do to everybody. They just call you a racist, man. They don't actually look at your ideas and what you might be thinking. They just call you a racist because it's the easiest way to get people to not listen to you anymore. You're a racist. You're a homophobe. You're a transphobe. Don't listen to him. Read that book. It's short. Even if you just look it up online, read what he had to say about the Civil Rights Act, and I'm telling you, he was fucking right. He was right. And you see it today. There is nothing that can stop a discrimination law if they want to write it. They'll just say, oh, it's related to the Civil Rights Act. Next thing you know, trannies in your school, you can't fire a man for wearing a dress at work. Just ridiculous stuff, just purely ridiculous shit, and it's sad, it's fucking sad, and I feel terrible because you want to be on the quote unquote right side of history, and you don't want to be like, yeah, fuck the Civil Rights Act, because that's not, it helped black people to a degree. It helped some black people anyway. But you have to tell the truth about it. It was the Trojan horse, Once they got the Civil Rights Act through the door, man, everything comes through the Civil Rights Act. And then they will even retrofit shit in order, like the whole trans stuff was never never intended. The gay stuff was never intended. They will read it into the law and then write some subsequent law that would rope that in. And it's like, you wouldn't be able to do that if that shit wasn't there. Now make the cake. I want you to make a dildo cake for my gay wedding. Well, I don't want to do it. I'm going to sue you if you don't. It's like, what the fuck? You created your own tyrants. You made a tyrant out of your own sympathy. Your sympathy is now your own tyrant. You're being forced legally at gunpoint to do things you don't want to do. Because if you don't, you're going to get sued. And it starts with lawsuits. We ain't got as bad as Africa yet. Africa is fucked. They're just going and take people's shit with guns. We ain't got that bad yet. But it ain't much better off. But yeah, that's just the beginning. Just read Barry Goldwater's Conscience of a Conservative about on the subject of the Civil Rights Act. I think you'll get a better idea than I can explain off the top of my head. All right, back to the questions. Prince Ali booked 2 male wrestlers, 2 female wrestlers, and 2 tag teams on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. Revamped WCW, ECW, or TNA. Who's the main stars on both AEW, New Japan, Impact Wrestling currently? I don't understand. Is this two separate questions? Is it the same question? I don't know. It's hard. It's rough. I don't know how to answer Prince Ali's questions. WG Field, Lispers Anonymous. Trips invited Cody, Seth, Austin, I'm a Man Theory, and Finn to discuss the New World title. Seth is going over, but Cody has to face Brock at Night of Champions and feud till SummerSlam. But suddenly Keith Lee, you can't put Keith Lee in here because Keith Lee doesn't work there. It's a little late in the game to do Lispers Anonymous. I'm going to try to come back. I'm going to double back to that one. We're going to kick that one over to Jim. 2, do you think Triple H can handle the oozing charisma of Pretty Deadly, Grayson Waller, and LA Knight on SmackDown? I certainly better hope somebody sees some star power in those guys, man, especially Pretty Deadly and Grayson Waller. LA Knight and Grayson Waller are on that sand in the hourglass is not really working out because Grayson Waller is already like 30 something. He's like 32 already, and LA Knight's like already 39. So they need to, whatever they're gonna do, they need to do it fast. But I believe that they can do it. I believe they can be pretty big stars even at their age. I think Triple H kind of looks past age, if we're being honest. I don't think he like Vince. Vince is like a age matters kind of guy. Biggest bag fumbles in wrestling history. AEWA not keeping Hogan got to be the biggest. Well, that's top tier. That's one of them. That's one of them. AEWA letting Hogan get away is, ooh boy. That's a big one. I think Vince letting Hall and Nash leave, like Diesel and Razor weren't big for the WWF, but they had learned something while they were in WWF that made them so valuable to WCW. And I don't think Vince understood that. I don't think he understood that. So I wouldn't say it's the biggest bag fumble, but it's one of them. AJ Styles, TNA, huge bag fumble. He was the franchise. I think him leaving really put a dagger in the heart of Impact / TNA, and people didn't take it seriously that much anymore afterwards. Because he was the heart and soul of TNA. How many times do you really let the top star leave because of finances? It's one thing for it to be like some other shit, but for like finances because you didn't want to pay him, I don't know. This seems silly to me, but Mitch Colburn, best bad gimmick, best jobber. Well, best jobber is like the Brooklyn Brawler. He's a pretty good jobber. Best bad gimmick. There's quite a few best bad gimmicks. Let me I gotta put some more thought into it. Let's see. what's a bad gimmick that actually? I guess you could say it don't typically work out too well if you're a vampire. You know that typically doesn't work out too well. But vampires can be very cool. Like Gangrel literally having fangs, I thought was a bit extra. But I wouldn't say he was like the best bad gimmick because vampires are often very cool. But like when you talk about like the early 95, 94 to 96 WWF era, like the Goon or Knuckleball Schwartz or something like that, I guess you could say Doink. Well, Heel Doink, because Heel Doink was amazing. That shit was amazing. Um, and it really shouldn't have made sense. It shouldn't have worked if we're being honest. But I'm pretty sure there are other ones, but I'm getting kind of tired, so I can't remember. Can't really think. Mr. VXG, why does the IWC like normal sized performers with little to no charisma? To me, it's the opposite of what wrestling is supposed to be. I think a lot of the IWC, they like people who are like themselves. They try to use that relatability excuse when in reality they it's not that they're relatable as much as they're just good mechanics. And years and years of wrestling fans reading the Observer, and those typically being the loudest, most vociferous in the last wrestling fans left, is the people who read the Observer and know who Dave Meltzer is. Those people tend to want their wrestling to be super serious, and a lot of it is based off of Japan and what takes place in Japan. And this guy was great in Japan, and this guy works a great Japanese style, and all this kind of crap. I don't know. I take it that's what it is, but I need these guys to put some tassels on. I need them to wear shinier jackets. Stop dressing like bums. Stop dressing like bums and bus drivers. Stop doing it. Nothing wrong with being a bus driver, but I don't want to watch a bus driver wrestle. Ben, get it in. Who should have broken Goldberg's streak? Everybody keeps asking this question. I think I finally fixated on the answer, though. It should have been Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner should have broke Goldberg's streak. Yeah, Scott Steiner. Or DDP. But I would have gone with Scott Steiner because he was a heel. 2, Crow Sting or Surfer Sting. Crow was overrated, in my opinion. I love Surfer Sting. I love early 90s Sting. That's my fucking dude, man. Wow! The energy he used to bring to these matches. Ooh, that's not much better than a Sting comeback. Ooh, wee. Like, watch some of his matches from the early 90s and 2000 WCW and just watch his comebacks. You can work Sting over forever, and then the comeback. Whoo! It was fire. And Crow Sting didn't really do much except hang out in the rafters and he kicked NWO's ass when he came out, which was good. But Surfer Sting was the man. If we could have found some kind of way to mix the two, that could have been great. I think it would have been excellent. But I love me some Surfer Sting. That's the guy. That's the fucking man right there. Scorpion. 3. Ever seen Detroit 9000? P.S. Promise to never slander Ice Train again. Did I slander Ice Train today? I don't think I said anything about Ice Train today. Best bad gimmick, Ice Train. But no, I haven't seen Detroit 9000. I don't even know what that is. Maybe I feel like I should know though. All right, let's go through you guys before we get out of here. Top dog. What's some wrestling moments that made you embarrassed to be a wrestling fan? Oh shit, there's quite a few. Katie Vick. Britney Spears' boyfriend pinning John Cena. I was legit pissed about that. Like that legit made me angry. I legit was upset about that. Anything that involves like Big Dick Johnson and that kind of stuff was off-putting. Wrestlers setting themselves on fire, doing stupid shit, being incredibly out of shape, and getting like when dudes fall out of the ring or the ropes break on the ring, and it's like not because shit happens, but because the ring was poorly constructed. Like the outlaw mud shows, as Cornette calls them, they do make me offended to be embarrassed to be a wrestling fan. Because you see how low shit can really get, and then you realize there's more shit like that than there is like WWE. And WWE even goes too far sometimes with their storylines, and you're like, ooh, you're cringing, you know? Some people will say like Miro and Lashley, but I don't think so. The Miro Lashley Lana thing, that's basic soap opera shit right there. That doesn't really embarrass me to be a wrestling fan. Plus, it gets a lot of people watching it anyway. More people watch that shit than they watch this shit that they're doing now outside of the bloodline. But because people like soap operas. But I think some of the truly embarrassing stuff, like the feeding a man his own dog, um, Mark Henry and Mae Young, yeah, the rape of Charmel rape thing. It's some of that shit is gross. Things that are gross that don't seem to make any logical sense. I don't see um, why you would do that. I didn't see your question, the TOD. You still got time to put it in. Um, I'm glad you still got time to put it in. So, AJ3, what is the greatest lose that WWE has yet to tie up? I guess you could say the greatest loss, and WWE has yet to tie up. I don't know. I don't know how. I don't like. I'm not sure what the question is. Naomi quitting for Sasha is top 5 bag fumble. Yes, easily. But I don't know how much she was getting paid versus how much she's getting paid now. Maybe she's getting paid a little bit more. Who knows? WG Field, yeah, feminists in the rainbow took over black advancement laws. Yeah, good work with that. Um, I'm him 24/7. What do you think about Tory Lanez face up to 8 years or more prison time? 8 years for shooting somebody seems about right. He's not gonna do 8 years anyway. Come on, he's gonna do probably 3, and then he's gonna be out probation for the rest. Um, I think that was an ugly situation. Question is, even if he didn't shoot her, if he pulled a gun, that's enough, really. Just being reckless with a gun is enough to end up with you in jail. So I don't necessarily feel that bad for him. I also didn't follow the case. Like I heard she got shot in the foot, but I was like, this broad is barefoot walking around all the time. I ain't never seen a bullet hole or anything like that. But who knows? Maybe she wears makeup to cover it up. But I don't know. King Mike's World says women are superficial and I've seen some ugly guys with hot women because they were tall. No, it's not because they were tall. It was usually because they were tall and got something else. They were tall and handsome to him, or he had a good sense of humor, or he got money, or whatever the case may be. He might have been somebody she's used to hanging out with, or whatever the case may be. It could be any number of things. It's usually not one thing. AJ3 says all conservatives are not Disney adults, and why is that? Because typically conservatives really put focus um, on gender roles. So they get to a point where people like I saw people making fun of like the Matt Walsh types, because a lot of these guys, the Matt Walshes and the Ben Shapiro's and the Michael Knowles, they openly say that they got married young to really their first high school girlfriend or whatever. So you will see guys be like, oh, they married the first girl who would touch their PP. And it's like, well, he took up responsibility as a young man. He was 20, 21, 19 or whatever. And he got married. He started having children. His mind started focusing more on that stuff. So he's not a Disney adult. He don't have time to sit around and watch Dumbo to be offended by it or to revel in it. He don't got time to sit down and go into all that shit. He's got responsibilities, and people who got responsibilities typically tend to be more conservative, or people who are serious about their responsibilities. People can have responsibilities and not really take care of them at all. But they tend not to. They tend to force themselves into gender roles, and they force themselves to grow up. This is why you hear Matt Walsh say shit about men not shouldn't have to wear shouldn't be able to wear backpacks. I see doctors in backpacks. Who cares if a man has a backpack on? Really, who gives a shit? These dudes do. They care about this kind of stuff because they want to be like the 1950s husband. It's like, pass. Those days are coming, I'm sure, but for now, pass. Um, Top Dog says, "Do you think kid teen culture has a lot to do with multiple generations being man children?" Uh, no. I think that most of that stuff is what it is. Like, teenagers are into what they're into. I'm very surprised to see a lot of people in my age group that listen to like young rappers. Like, I was very surprised Big Search listened to certain rappers. I was like, I thought, because I had moved on from listening to rap. I just kind of assumed that he did too. He didn't. He's still listening to like NBA YoungBoy uh and that kind of shit. And I'm like, I never heard any of these niggas in my life. But he's always been more in touch with like youth culture and stuff than I have. I've always been on the outside. It took me a while to get used to that kind of thing. D-Mac said Spike TV has some good shows. I fuck with Deadliest Warrior, 1,000 Ways to Die, Survive in Disaster. Deadliest Warrior is one of my favorite TV shows. Yes, favorite TV shows. Absolutely. I love Deadliest Warrior. I was very upset when it stopped coming on. Very upset. I used to drag girls to like list. You need to watch Deadliest Warrior and watch this guy blow up this gelatin thing. It's about to fucking rule. It's about to be great. They don't get it. They're like, okay, it's not like a real battle. It's simulated. Like, I don't care. I want to watch a Zulu warrior fight a samurai. I don't give a fuck if it's not real. Shit, you don't know I watch wrestling? I don't care about that real. DMAC Q&A question: what do you make of the rumors regarding upcoming WB AEW TV contract? I don't know if you covered that already. I have not covered it in any detail here. What I said is, I said it earlier, I'll say it again for people who just coming in. Because I didn't get the AEW review up before like 4 o'clock, I'm going to post it tomorrow. And in the body of that interview, in the body of that review is going to be a discussion about the AEW contract rumors. It's like 15 minutes of me talking about it. So I don't want to ruin. I could basically delete that video if I'm talking about it here, because it's like a big chunk of that video is me talking about those rumors. But so I'm just gonna kick the ball to tomorrow. We'll discuss it on the Dynamite review. But on a positive, because the video is already put together, I'll actually put it up in the morning. So it'll be up at like 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, not like 2 o'clock in the afternoon like usual. TLD says his question is in the comments of the question and answers. It's too long to post in the chat. Let me take a look. I'll see if I can find it. Especially since he said it was long. It might require a long answer. Let's see. What wrestling move are you sick of seeing? There's so many. I'm sick of seeing super kicks. I'm very sick of super kicks. I wish to death. I wish we need like a moratorium on super kicks, bro. Like we need like super kicks to stop. I don't see it here at TOD. I'm going through it again. I don't see it. Let me see if it pop up on the studio version. Do you think the PG era ruined the company? No, I don't think so. I don't think it ruined the company. I think it forced change. It's forced change. Like I think that sometimes people don't like to change, but I think people make too much of the whole PG era thing anyway. Like to me, outside of some of the silly poopy jokes and all that kind of stuff, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. If we're being honest, it's like what would really be the case is they probably curse a little bit more, and it'd probably be a little bit more sex, but it's not going to be a hell of a lot anyway. What are your favorite moments from the Razzie Awards? I never watched the Razzie Awards. I don't know. WG Field says, I'm tired of Tower of Doom in women's matches. I'm tired of the Tower of Doom, period. Everybody collective in that corner and then jumping off is or jumping into each other is dumb. I'm just tired of that shit. It's all super kicks, Spanish flies, Spanish flies, the destroyers. Yeah, it's all quite boring. I'm looking for the TOD's question. I don't see it here. Let me see if I can I figured that the question might have just got lost in the shuffle, but I'm looking through the question and answer thing, and I am not seeing it. I am not seeing it. Can you truncate the question, like, uh, in a way that might be able to get the general idea? Yeah, because I don't see it here. All right, I'm hot and I'm thirsty. What is this about? Um, let's see. Oh, the loose ends in wrestling that they need to be tied up. I think Undertaker and Kane, was a loose end. I don't think they really finished their story, if we're being honest. I think they probably one of the. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of Razor Fist takes on things, other than like some of his pop culture takes are kind of weird, but his wrestling takes are really far out there, especially since he's a like follower of Vince Russo. But he was absolutely right when he said that Kane should have broke the streak. And he said, if anybody knew anything about storytelling, that's what it should have been. And I think that is true. Kane should have broke the streak. The problem with that is the way Kane had been presented over the years, it wasn't believable. Nobody would buy it. If Kane would have beat the Undertaker at WrestleMania, after being embarrassed by John Cena and being humiliated by Triple H and all that kind of stuff, like, nah, I don't think anybody would have bought it. I don't think anybody would have been interested in it. But they did do a nice little feud over the World Heavyweight title where, Kane buried Undertaker alive and all that kind of stuff. That was fun. But it would have been nice if Kane would have been booked somewhat strong and not humiliated and made to look like a chump over the years. And then he was the one who ended the Undertaker's streak. That would have been good. And retired him. That would have been good, I think. But unfortunately we didn't get there because of the way Kane was treated over the years. It just nobody would have bought it. But I still think his final match should have been against Kane. That would have been nice too. All right. Whew. TOD, we're going to have to ask the question in June because I do not have the energy to answer questions right now. Thanks, everybody, for coming in. I appreciate it. We're going to, again, upload the AEW Dynamite review. It'll be up tomorrow morning. Oh, TLD got the question. Roman Reigns retires the WWE Championship. Reason it's the last OG title still running. Since the company got sold, it'd be closer for the E. What if Roman Reigns retired with the championship or retires the WWE Championship? If you think, okay, so could Roman Reigns retire the WWE Championship? Man, that would suck. That belt's been the same title since 1963, and we gonna get rid of it? Nah, bro. I'm telling you, I will lead a raid on Titan before they go to the new headquarters. Even if it's just a one man with a torch, if Triple H decides, you know what, we're gonna end the entire legacy of the WWE Championship because the company got sold to Endeavor. You gotta be fucking kidding me. There's just no way. There's no way. I'd be fucking pissed. Now, I see why you would say that though, because it's a different company now. It's a company that's now owned by somebody other than the McMahon family. And you can say, look, the WWE Championship is the legacy of the McMahon family. We're going to end that and start a new thing with Endeavor. I can't. I can't. That's something that probably would make me quit watching. I'm not even gonna hold you up. That's so offensive that I probably can't see myself making an excuse for it. I'll probably be like, look, there's no point in watching this shit. You know, like starting over from zero. Anything that starts with like year zero in wrestling doesn't make any sense unless you're literally starting from the beginning, like AEW when they first started, like 0 and 0. You can't start from zero, bro. You can't start this shit over. It's on now. TNA tried that. They tried to rebrand in the middle of the thing, and it didn't work. WWE, people still call it WWF, and they rebranded over 10 years ago. It's been over 20 years now, and people still say it's the WWF. Rebranding doesn't really work. I don't believe at all they're going to change the name. It's a worldwide brand. Why would they change the name of it? So they wouldn't need to change the title. They would probably change the logo. You know, that's like they teased new logos for Raw and SmackDown. They definitely need new logos. They definitely need a new look to the arenas and everything. But the Intercontinental Championship and the WWE title need to be left alone. Don't touch those titles. Don't rename them. You could change the belt design. You could do that. But you can't rename them. You can't retire them. You can't. That retiring the Intercontinental Championship stuff, I swear to God, I didn't know it happened. I was better off knowing it didn't happen. Because it justified me not watching when I found out about it. Like, when I heard they retired the Intercontinental title, even though I didn't hear about it until I started watching again. And, I wonder, like, where did the Intercontinental title go? Like, on some of these pay-per-views I'm looking at, like, I'm not seeing any Intercontinental title matches, like, who's the champion or whatever. And, like, the title was gone. I'm like, gone? Where the fuck did it go? Well, they unified it. They unified it? You got rid of the Intercontinental title? And you thought that was a good idea? Like, that justified me not watching, to be quite honest. There's certain things, man, but you got to have something got to be sacred to this shit, Those two titles at least need to be left alone. You can fuck around and create whatever you want, but leave the WWE title alone. Leave the Intercontinental title alone. Leave those belts alone. You want to change the tag team belts to like giant pennies or nickels or whatever, do what you do. Leave the Intercontinental Championship alone. Stop talking about deactivating it, relinquishing it and all this kind of, no. No. There's too much history. Leave it alone. It was bad enough. And I get why they did it, but no. They had shit all over the Intercontinental anyway up to that point. Various dubious Intercontinental champions up until the part where they, deactivated the title. But I was like, man, that sucked. That sucked hard way. Nah, man. And then the way they brought it back was garbage too, because it wasn't even like still wasn't a mainstream mega title. Thank God for like Shelton Benjamin, Nitro, Carlito, all those guys, because I think they brought it back. In terms of the prestige of what the title used to mean, I think the Carlito, Shelton Benjamin, they were talking about them on Twitter, actually. Those guys, when they started, 2004 to 2006, 2007, those guys really raised the Intercontinental title back up. But that 2002 era, 2003, a mess. Embarrassing, if we're being honest, for the Intercontinental Championship. Leave those belts alone. All right. I'm out of here, y'all. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.